Yeah, congrats. Look at this little man. Pathetic little man.
Hey, how are you?
The thing is, Ben Shapiro's a much more organically, very loosely, he's a much more popular figure than Charlie Kirk, so they were going to get a bigger turnout for this.
Really appreciate it. Well, thanks first of all to the SCRs.
Wait, pause. Let me just post a link on Twitter, so if people want to watch, they can. Let's see. Reacting to the replay of Ben Shapiro's Nick Fuentes speech. Hello, persuasion check. Reacting to the replay of Ben Shapiro's Nick Fuentes speech on D Live now. I'm posting the link. Copy, paste. There we go. That'll boost our audience a little bit here. Okay, let's begin. Tell me about the volume.
Actually, have to deal with the fallout of this speech. And Young America's Foundation, thanks to Fred R. Allen always for sponsoring.
Let me know if the volume's good or not.
Today's speech was supposed to be titled, "No Leftist Idiots Don't Get to Raise My Kids." And judging by the behavior of the leftists outside and the run-up to this particular event, I think it's pretty obvious why their own parents did a terrible job of raising them.
That hurts. Some people are saying download. I'll start the download right now in case they take it down. Let me just get the download going and then I'll resume. People are saying it's a little loud. Some people are saying it's okay. I'll lower it a little bit. Let me just see if we could get the download started. It's kind of a big file and I'm streaming right now, so it might be tough. All right, let's begin.
My favorite is that apparently there's some dolt out there walking around in white sheets, which I say, shout out to Governor Ralph Northam.
That's so funny, bro. Ralph Northam hasn't been relevant for like 3 months.
Level of generosity and open-spiritedness of the dorm community here at Stanford. Apparently, the folks at the SCRs put up some posters for this lecture. They were quickly removed, which is a real free speech problem if the administration does not do anything about it. And they're replaced by a letter from the Nordelpha staff. This is one of your dorms. Yeah, shout out to you guys too. It says, "Dear Nordelpha community, we, the Nordelpha staff, care about you, your feelings, your physical and emotional health. You matter and are welcome here in this space. We welcome and center the voices that some may wish to specifically marginalize and target. In that way, we support black people, people of color, non-binary folks, LGBTQIA folks, Muslims, and Jews. People from diverse backgrounds learning and flourishing together is what makes Stanford and Nordelpha special, particularly if they never have to hear anything they don't want to hear." That last part didn't write. "Thank you for being you. You are a star. And don't let anyone tell you you're not. Why, thank you too, Barney the dinosaur.
That's not funny, bro.
Please reach out to any of us if you need to talk or need us to
The
support
guy's such
you
a
in any
nerd.
way.
If
Honestly,
he wasn't
seeing a
being
flyer
backed by
requires
billionaires,
psychological
where do you
support.
think
needed
Ben Shapiro
psychological
would be?
support before you saw the flyer.
Thank you, Barney the dinosaur. Okay, bro.
Now, as I say, this lecture was going to be about the left's attempts to rewrite American history,
But he
gender
changed
politics,
it just
basic
for
morality,
me.
their ongoing attempts to seize the cultural and governmental heights of power in order to control how Americans raise their kids. And we'll hit some of those themes tonight. I'm sure that it'll come up during the Q&A. And just a quick preview. The left does, in fact, attempt to twist American history, turn it into an unalloyed story of American evil, try to divide us from each other by claiming that we are not part of the same American family.
Really?
Try
I've
to
never
suggest that
heard
American
this
history
before.
is not about the constant attempt to perfect the
What a brave
fulfillment
take,
of eternal
bro.
American principles that are embodied in the Declaration of Independence and the
Extremely
Constitution of the
brave
United
take,
States,
man.
but is instead a power hierarchy of dominance and cruelty. The left does indeed attempt to do that. The left does indeed attempt to shove its perverse view of gender politics down the throat of parents all over the country, and that will continue and get worse. They continue to maintain idiotically that men can be women and women can be men, which is obviously untrue. They even maintain that small children should be able to decide whether, in fact, they are members of the opposite gender. I have a 3-year-old son. Okay, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. My 3-year-old son is not capable of deciding what he eats in the morning. He is not capable of deciding what he wears.
When does he start talking about me?
He was very angry, and so he decided to lie face down because I have the microphone. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the dangerous game that's being played by two.
I'm going to get, where are we?
If I had let him do that, identify, attempting to rewrite basic morality and basic law by suggesting that speech is violence and violent speech, and they are cramming that down on kids, which is why you have people protesting and suggesting that the very fact that I speak and say things that they don't like is some form of incitement or some form of violence. So we'll talk about some of that tonight, but
all right, here we go.
Late-breaking events have made it so that I have switched the topic.
Breaking events.
I've decided to talk about something else, and you're all just going to have to deal with it because I have the microphone.
Me.
Tonight, I'm going to talk about the dangerous game that's being played by two particular nasty groups who feed off one another.
Me.
I'm speaking about the radical left and the alt-right.
Not the alt-right. America
I discuss
first,
the radical
bitch.
left on campus all the time. That's because campuses
America
are
first,
dominated by the censorious and
paleoconservatism.
nasty radical left. On the other hand, I actually did question whether I wanted to talk about the alt-right
Breaking
tonight.
event.
One reason
Breaking
is because
events.
what the alt-right wants more than anything else in the world is attention. They rant, or they cry, or they even sing their white supremacist anti-Semitic moon landing conspiracism into their webcams for hours at a time while insisting they don't care about attention. But of course,
What do
that's
you
exactly
do?
what they
Because
care
we
about
have a
the very,
show,
very most.
because we share our
Which is
views,
why
that's
they've been
exactly what you
distributing
do, you
calendars of
dummy.
conservative events and encouraging trolls to show up to ask pre-written questions designed to elicit lulls from like-minded idiots who populate
It's not about
8chan and
laughing. Asking questions about the census
other
and the Pew
reason
Research
is
is not
because there
designed
is
to
a great
elicit
deal of
laughter.
factionalism on
And
the alt-right,
pre-written
so the very term
questions,
alt-right is
why would you not
controversial in
pre-write
some
the
of its
question?
adherents.
Everybody that came to
Some
your
of them
event
call
pre-wrote their
themselves the
questions,
new
you
right,
dumb
and
bitch.
swear they despise the founders of the alt-right. Some call themselves America First, trying to hijack President Trump's
That's me, big
slogan
guy.
to give themselves the
That's
patina
me,
of
America
credibility.
First.
More on that in a second. Some name their movements after mammals, some after amphibians.
Groiper?
It gets confusing.
Groiper
It's
check?
meant to be. You see, keeping people confused is actually one of their chief tactics because
That's
it gives
literally
them room
you,
to ridicule
dude. That's
anybody who
literally
doesn't
you.
understand all of their esoteric labels and jokes and beliefs. So why talk about the alt-right at all? The answer is simple. The radical left and the alt-right desperately need each other. Need each other. They're
Not
playing
true.
a game in which the radical left seeks to delegitimize anybody who isn't on the radical left by lumping them in with the despicable alt-right, and in which the alt-right seeks to make common cause with anybody canceled by the radical left, specifically with supporters of President Trump who've been maligned falsely as evil by the radical left in order to artificially boost their alt-right numbers. These two goals are mutually reinforcing. Now, first, I want to just say, straight for the record, okay, the alt-right does not mean anybody who's an immigration restrictionist or people who are pro-tariff or
That's
people
exactly
who are
what
more
we are.
isolationist on foreign policy.
That's
They're a
exactly what we
specific
are.
set of beliefs. And what you'll see the alt-right do is adopt the beliefs of some of these other movements
Oh
in
yeah,
order
so
to find cover
so
for their
they
actual
don't have the
beliefs, which really
ideas
is
of
quite
the
wrong.
alt-right. They're just
So here is
but
how
they
this
are,
game
but they
works.
just are anyway.
Let's say that you're on the alt-right, whatever your
They
preferred
adopt
label.
non-alt-right
We'll just call you
views. They
alt-right
have
for purposes of
non-alt-right
this
views, but
conversation
they're
because
all
that's
right.
what you are.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, that you're constantly talking about white civilization, a nonsensical term
Jared
because
Taylor
civilization
check?
is not
Yo,
defined
Jared
by
Taylor
color,
check?
but by history and culture and philosophy. But let's say that you say white civilization is under attack by multiracial hordes. Ooh.
True.
Let's say that you're antipathetic toward Jews. You're enraged by the liberties guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States.
What about Jews?
Let's say you spend your days ranting about how conservatives and traditional classical liberals, the sole protective force in America against the radical left, haven't conserved anything.
Yeah, they've really
You
protected
say that America
everything,
is
right?
not a propositional or a creedal nation, even though the nation's founding literally begins with the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights." Let's
How
say
does
that
that
you
make
say
America a
Christianity is the
creedal
basis of your
nation?
values,
Oh,
but
you
you're
think
more likely to
America's
quote Nietzsche
not a
than Christ.
creedal nation? Well, look
Let's
at
say
the
that you
Declaration of
constantly lament
Independence.
that
What does that have to do with
fundamental
anything?
institutions, but you don't belong to a church.
Every
you don't
country
belong
has
to a bowling league,
documents.
You don't belong to the Lions Club. You don't belong to the Rotary Club. You don't own a home. You don't have a grown-up job. You probably aren't married. You probably aren't a parent. Let's say that your greatest achievement in life isn't family, kids, church, community, but that you once made a semi-ironic meme that 7 other people like you upvoted on Telegram.
How about Vince James? Wait, pause.
Turns
Pause
out
check. We just have to pause and treat this like a regular. We can't just go through this. This is just outright slander. This is just simply outright slander. The idea that our movement is comprised of people that are like, oh, the only thing that they have going for them is memes. How about Vince James? Vince James has a family. Vince James had a job. His job was destroyed because of people like you. How about almost anybody in the movement? I can tell you, dozens of people that have come up to me at CPAC, that have come up to me at Miami, people that are married, people that have high-ranking jobs, people that work in the government. We have people that work in the White House. For him to say that the only people that support these ideas are, oh, they're basement dwellers, duh. That's literally a left-wing talking point. He wants to talk about the radical left. It's the opposite. It's the radical left and the left that needs the mainstream right. Why do you think the radical left debates Charlie Kirk? Right? Why do you think the radical left tries to get us banned and doxxed and all the rest, but they don't seem to mind any of these guys? Certainly there are some Antifa that come to show up and protest Ben Shapiro, but Kyle Kulinski debates with Charlie Kirk. Kyle Kulinski wouldn't talk to me. The Young Turks will talk to Charlie Kirk, but they won't talk to me. It's the opposite. He says at the top of the debate, the alt-right, and first of all, we're not the alt-right, by the way. We're the America First right. He says, well, oh, they're rebranding themselves. They're just trying to confuse you. It's really not that confusing, Ben. I've explained it 100 times to people that haven't been following a lot of the internet drama for years, that the alt-right was founded by Richard Spencer, or at least adopted, inherited by Richard Spencer. The term was coined by Gottfried and Spencer. And after Hailgate at the NPI conference in 2016, and after Charlottesville, it was increasingly dominated by Spencer, who is, I would say, a white globalist would be a good way to say it. We are not white globalists. You could describe us as identitarians, as nationalists. But the ideology that we have is different from the alt-right in not insignificant ways. And if you know anything about me, if you've ever watched my show, me and Richard Spencer don't even get along. We got along for maybe a minute last year. I could play for you the voicemail that he sent to me in January 2018, and you'll see the differences between what an alt-right person says and what we say. So, I mean, that whole smear is just simply not true. This is, talk about trying to confuse people. This is obfuscation by Ben Shapiro, who's the king of deception. And then to say that, oh, well, the only thing that they have going for them is they're white and they make memes. Well, that's not true, because we have people in the White House, we have people in Washington, D.C., we have lawyers, accountants, doctors, we have people with families, we have people that are old, people that are young, students in Ivy League universities. Who do you think is funding my show? Who do you think can afford to fund my show with super chats every night? You should see some of the numbers that go up. And I don't say that for any other reason other than it's not people that are... And anyway, I also have a problem with the way this is characterized. Ben Shapiro believes that white people have no worth. White people, if they don't have a job, white people that have been left behind by the 21st century are worthless, says Ben Shapiro. Never mind the fact that you see the entire interior of the country has been hollowed out by trade and immigration. But if you're a victim of that, I guess you're just a big loser to Ben Shapiro. If you're some white guy on opioids who had his community destroyed and his wife left him and took the kids and all that, and you find some of our arguments, you resonate with that. So I'll even push back on, it's not true that our argument is comprised of so-called losers, but I push back on the fact that people that didn't go to a private Jewish high school like you did and have your Jewish parents pay for college for you and use their Hollywood connections to get you a career, I push back on the fact that those people don't have any worth. What kind of thing is that to say, right? That's the same kind of shit we hear from the left. But anyway, we'll resume. I just had to pause. He spoke for like 10 minutes, and we had to resume.
Not all that many Americans agree with you. After all, your agenda is pretty disgusting.
Yeah,
you also
you're
happen to have the
disgusting,
unfortunate
sicko.
habit of saying really disgusting things when you think other people aren't listening. For example, your thought leaders, your self-proclaimed lead influencers, will say they're not on the same page as white supremacist Richard Spencer, but then they'll go on Facebook and post about the Charlottesville white
That's
supremacist
me.
rally, quote, the rootless transnational elite.
That's
know
me.
that
I
the
said
wave of
that.
White identity is coming, and they know that once the word gets out, they will not be able to stop us. The fire rises.
Well, first of all, pause. I posted that on Facebook after Charlottesville 2 years ago, by the way, when I was 18, so that's convenient that they bring that up. But moreover, rootless transnational elite. Do you know where I got that phrase from? And I'm a genius, and I know exactly where I got it from. I probably heard it 3 years ago. That phrase comes from Roger Scruton, okay? Rootless transnational elite. That's a phrase that comes from Roger Scruton. You know who that is? The English philosopher who talks about architecture. So this fucking dishonest prick says that saying that rootless transnational elite, well, that's some kind of a dog whistle. Okay, then I guess Roger Scruton, who writes about modern culture and architecture, who's universally acclaimed as the founder of, not the founder, but one of the most important conservative thinkers alive today. I guess he's in the alt-right too. And white identity. I guess we're the only people in the world that talk about white identity, right? Not Donald Trump, not Tucker Carlson, not anybody else. You talk about Jewish identity all the time, but taking a phrase from Roger Scruton, having her own identity, and saying that we have started a fire in the conservative movement, I don't see what that indicates there. But again, Ben Shapiro is accusing us of what he himself is doing, which is obfuscating and confusing people.
Really hiding the ball there, are you?
Really
Let's
hiding
say
the
that
ball,
your
yeah.
self-proclaimed lead influencer has compared Alex Jones's ban from social media, a ban, by the way, which I opposed publicly, to a modern Kristallnacht and the beginning of a white Holocaust.
I said that.
But when it comes to the
I said that deliberately to get people riled up like that. So that is true. I did compare it to Kristallnacht, which it is. Night of Broken Glass. It is. It was an act of intimidation towards people. But Ben Shapiro doesn't like when you talk about the Holocaust. He gets really upset about
Holocaust
this.
itself. You have some questions. You do.
No, I would never question
questions
the Holocaust.
like this. This is a direct quote from a lead influencer in the alt-right.
Me.
Says,
I'm not in the alt-right.
If I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. No, that doesn't sound really correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to build a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right, doing 24 hours a day for 5 years. How long would it take to get to 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. None of it really adds up. None of it really makes sense. This crazy cookie analogy. 6 million cookies? No, I don't buy it. That's all irony. I'm an irony bro. That's all irony.
Ben Shapiro's an irony
That's the kind of stuff some of these folks are saying.
That was all ironic. I'm an irony bro. I said it was ironic. Oh, that's so funny. It's just like in the Joker. Ben Shapiro's like, you really believe that making that cookie joke was funny, don't you? I do. And I'm tired of pretending it's not. Those cookies couldn't carry a tune to save their lives. Boo, boo. Oh, come on, Murray. Comedy is subjective. Oh, that's so good. I think we've had enough of your jokes. How about another joke, Ben? What do you get when you cross a batch of cookies? Call the police, Gene. Call the Politicon security, Gene. That's so funny. That's not funny. You can't joke about that. Knock, knock. Ben Shapiro says, well, you had to look in your notebook to find that one. I want to make sure I get it right. Knock, knock. It's the Jews, ma'am. Your son questioned the Holocaust. He's dead. Boo, boo, wah, wah. Hey, you can't joke about that. Yeah, that's not the kind of humor we do on this show, Nick. That's what they're saying. Knock, knock. Knock, knock. It's Turning Point USA, ma'am. Your son questioned the Holocaust. He's dead. Wah, wah. Oh, it's too funny. They ask questions. It was a joke, bitch. It was a funny joke. They're acting like, oh, these alt-right trolls. They're saying outrageous things to get attention. They're making jokes. Oh, they made a joke. They're asking questions. Shut it down. Shut their hateful ideology down. Nick Fuentes made a joke about the Cookie Monster. Oh, fuck off, you piece of shit.
For the record, by the way, just so the facts are on the record, according to Henrik Tauber, a member of the Sonder Commando who worked in several of Birkenau's gas chambers.
Oh, come on, Ben. Just we set the record straight. There were. We're gonna do this now. We're gonna relitigate Holocaust denial. It was a fucking joke, dummy.
Bodies a day. The procedure was to put the first body with the feet toward the muffle, back down and face up.
No,
and a
see,
second
just
body
so
was placed
everybody
on top,
knows.
again face
Hey,
up,
just so
headed
anybody
toward
doesn't
the
even
muffle.
ask again,
We had
it
to
did
work fast.
happen.
The bodies put in first soon started to burn. Their arms and legs rose up. Women's bodies burned much better and more quickly than those of men. For this reason, when a charge was burning badly, we would introduce a woman's body to accelerate the combustion.
Ron Oons, American Pravda. If you're interested.
In fact, it seems like some members of the alt-right, they have a pretty large problem with Jews generally.
No, we don't.
They'll
I
tweet
love
things
you,
like,
bro.
Quote, so-called Jewish values tend to favor liberal and internationalist positions like abortion, foreign
Did I say
intervention,
that?
multiculturalism, homosexuality, and mass
I think
immigration.
I said that.
Some of you will say that you're hurt in your daily existence by Jews. You've suggested that a religious Catholic who writes for my website, a guy named Matt Walsh, is a, quote, Shabbos Goy race trader who's throwing his own people under the bus and hates white people. In fact, Walsh is, according to you, an F word, that would be for gay people,
F word. Say it, faggot.
Genitalia race trader who works for the Jews. What prompted that outburst, by the way, on the part of this alt-right lead influencer?
I'm a lead influencer of the America First movement.
The El Paso racist shooter should be publicly executed in brutal fashion.
No, because, no, you dishonest schmuck, you dishonest. First of all, I love how he rolls through these. He's like, oh, you might say the Jews hurt you in your daily existence. Hello, department. Hello, department. Hello, there's a Jew who's trying to hurt my life right here, right? Yeah, I was so out of line for saying that because ever since I said that, the only people who can't let me live it down is the Zionist Organization of America and Ben fucking Shapiro, and all these people that work for him. Yeah, so I was really out of line to say that. Oh, I know that was so bad. And when I said about Jewish people favoring liberal internationalist positions, dude, that's literally what Bret Stephens said, you stupid bitch. I'll have to do a full YouTube video with clips and with documents because everything here that he's saying is demonstrably wrong. I'm so glad I watched this tonight and didn't procrastinate until tomorrow because there is so much in here that is just demonstrably not true. That if anybody took the time to watch, Rootless Transnational Elite, I can still, to this day, I'm sure, go back and find the Roger Scruton lecture I heard it from 2 or 3 years ago and show you where he said that. I could go back and I can show you Bret Stephens debating a rabbi about whether Trump is good or not for the Jews. You could look it up on YouTube. Where Bret Stephens himself, it's a quote from the horse's mouth, Bret Stephens, who is Jewish, who was born in Jerusalem and wrote for the Jerusalem Post, said that Jewish people tend to favor liberal internationalist positions. And liberal internationalism has been so good for us as Jews. That's a quote. That is a quote from the opinion writer at the New York Times, Bret Stephens. So he's taking all these different things, which I'm quoting, which I'm citing from people he agrees with. And he said, oh, it's alt-right. Oh, it's alt-right. So, yeah, this is going to be easily picked apart. And understand, this is why he doesn't want to debate. Because when he's up there, and as he said, I have the microphone, so I'm on a power trip. I'm 5 feet tall, but I'm on a power trip because I have the microphone. Only when he is monologuing after kicking out all our supporters, trying to get me banned off Twitter, trying to get people to disassociate with me from the conservative movement or anybody in D.C., only in this environment can he read off this bullshit. Because if it was in a debate, he could be called on it on the spot, and people would see what a liar this man is. And they say, oh no, the left wing is trying to make advertisements about me and pesticide. It's like, well, I don't know, big guy. This is kind of tricky
lead influencers
behavior.
in the alt-right not so fond of black people either.
I love
One particular lead influencer, when asked if having sex with a dog is the same thing as having sex with a black man, said, quote, they would both be degenerate. Really?
Yeah, exactly. Some stupid whore, and I've been over this 100 times, some stupid whore who has a tattoo on her ass of a bar on Clarendon, Virginia. So this is who we're talking about. Septum ring, nose piercing, fucked every guy at the Leadership Institute training with the tattoo of the Don John bar on her ass. She's the one that started secretly filming me in the basement of the Leadership Institute headquarters and said, do you think having sex with a black man is the same as having sex with a dog? And I said no, but I don't care for race mixing, okay? And I don't, and that's a popular position. But they try and pretend like, oh, he compared it to bestiality. Yeah, I was set up. Somebody secretly recorded me, asked a loaded question, and I answered it correctly.
Really classy people. So,
really classy
believe
people.
All these garbage things,
yeah. What did you say about bulldozing Palestinian villages? I love how these people are the first ones to cry foul if you bring up their old quotes. And they say, oh, no, I disavowed. When Ben Shapiro said that Israel should be ethnically cleansed to Palestinians, we're all supposed to give him clemency on that because he said 5 years later, oh, I don't agree with that anymore. But I said 2 years ago when I was 18, being secretly recorded in a loaded question that I don't like race mixing and my life is destroyed forever. I'm a really classy guy, according to Ben Shapiro. Go fuck yourself, you fucking loser.
Things. And you are, in fact, a garbage human being.
Garbage human being. Dude, you're fucking scum. You're going to burn in hell for denying
Christ.
Obviously,
white supremacist garbage. What do? You take 4 steps in order to legitimize yourself. Step number 1, the Trump gambit. First, you declare your allegiance to President Trump and declare that you're not really alt-right, even though you obviously are.
We're
you
not
show up to
dumb,
lectures
bitch.
wearing a MAGA hat in order to get the media to cover it and in order to demonstrate that you are truly a representative of the 63 million Trump voters. You call yourself America First. Hijacking Trump's slogan, but what you actually mean is white Americans first.
Yeah, that's another slogan. That's another slogan from the left. We've never said that. And by the way, we do support President Trump. I took shit for 3 years for supporting President Trump. Everybody that asks a question supports President Trump. We're getting cover from Michelle Malkin and Ann Coulter. They're defending what we're doing. They know that we're nationalists. They know that we're sincere Trump supporters. We didn't tell the first two people to bring the rosary when they asked the first questions in Colorado. The people that follow me are Trump-supporting Catholics. Oh, but that's all a gambit. But yeah, Ben Shapiro says, well, they don't say they're alt-right, but they are. Well, they don't say they don't support Trump, but, they don't. And they don't say that they're whatever. Yeah, so everybody's lying except for you, Ben, right? Everybody in the world is a dishonest piece of shit, garbage human being, except for you. Ben Shapiro, whose father paid for him in one of the most elite private Jewish schools in Los Angeles, got him into college, paid for his undergraduate degree, got him set up with some guy in Hollywood, got him set up with the Wilkes brothers, billionaire people that funded the Daily Wire. But yeah, we're the garbage human beings. What has this guy produced in his life other than hot fucking air and advertisements?
Eat it up because the media love nothing better than, of course, lumping Trump in with particularly this group. You don't have to take my word for it. You can just ask Andrew Anglin, the neo-Nazi who runs the Daily Stormer. He posted a calendar of events for alt-righters to attend and attack, including this particular event. And he wrote last week, quote, I think basically we've got a model going forward that is going to work. If we get questions, we'll take questions, but simply being there and heckling in the audience relentlessly is extremely effective. And you can meet other like-minded people there this way as well. Remember, we're all good optics, American nationalists now. Longtime readers will remember this is something I pushed very hard while others were dressing up in neo-Nazi costumes. And by talking about these issues instead of saying, gas the kikes or whatever, we are more or less immune to being fired or kicked out of school if doxxed. You just, if somebody calls you alt-right, you say, no, of course I'm not an alt-right neo-Nazi racist white supremacist. I'm just an America First nationalist and a MAGA supporter. Now, this is a clever tactic. It is. Donald Trump is many things. He is not a white supremacist and he is not an anti-Semite. His daughter is an Orthodox Jew, so is his son-in-law, so are all of his policy advisors, or at least many of his policy advisors with regard to the Middle East. Donald Trump moved the American embassy to Jerusalem in a bold move of solidarity with the people of Israel.
We get it. He's a Shabbos boy too. We get it,
Trump
bro.
Heights, Ramat Trump, is named for him in the Golan Heights. Donald Trump has nothing to do with these so-called self-proclaimed America First asshats. In fact, he's very close
you're the
to
one
of
wearing a
people they
fucking
attacked
ass
the most,
hat
Charlie
on your
Kirk.
head. This signifies I rebel against Jesus Christ. This signifies, you know what that means, right? Yeah, we're the ass hats. Look at what's on your head, big guy.
Right, Donald Trump regularly invites Charlie to official meetings in the Oval Office. But, these people bought some MAGA hats. So
Yeah,
left them
because
spread
Charlie
their-
Kirk's father worked with Donald Trump as a contractor in the 1980s and 90s. Yeah, Charlie Kirk is in the White House, and that signifies that Donald Trump loves his ideas, and not that he worked with his father. I hear a lot of this in D.C. I hear a lot of this in L.A. I hear a lot of this, frankly, from Ben Shapiro's types, My father, my father. Charlie Kirk says, my father. Ben Shapiro, my father. Yeah, these people are all connected is what that means. Give me a break.
And they know it, which is why, again, they're encouraging people to wear MAGA hats to events. So be on the lookout. That doesn't mean everyone with a MAGA hat is an alt-righter, obviously. What I'm saying is that the vast majority of people who wear MAGA hats are not alt-righters. I'm saying the alt-right is looking to disguise themselves specifically for purposes of publicity. Okay, step 2, then you declare yourself the true conservatives, the true heirs to conservatism.
We are the way he
right?
says
Not
that.
a bunch of masturbating losers who live in your mother's basement. No, you're the true heirs of conservatism.
Masturbating losers who live in
The
their
way you do
parents'
this is that
basement.
you
There it is again. There it is again. Yeah, not everybody, Ben Shapiro, can have their parents foot the bill for elite private Jewish school in Los Angeles. Not everybody can use their father's connections to get them into UCLA and go to law school and get them set up with Hollywood producers, and that's literally what it is. Where's Jeremy Boring's background? Anybody remember Jeremy Boring, co-founder of the Daily Wire? What's his background in Hollywood? What's the background of Ben Shapiro's father and mother? They work in entertainment. He was born in L.A. Hollywood people propped him up and created the Daily Wire. Where was he 5 years ago? He was on Piers Morgan. The guy looked like he was a middle school president. Anybody remember that look that he had? And then he got Jeremy Boring, and he got, Rush Limbaugh, David Limbaugh to boost him up. Yeah, he wrote a book when he was 17. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I'm sure, his parents knowing David Limbaugh had nothing to do with that.
Simply lie about mainstream conservatives. You suggest that mainstream conservatives are insufficiently committed to social conservatism.
True.
So, one of the things that all these people have been planning to do the last several weeks is they show up in the Q&A lines and they ask the same 9 questions. So I'm just going to knock down these questions right now, and then we can actually have a real Q&A with real questions. Saves us time on the other end.
I like how they're cheering for that. They're cheering and they're saying, yeah, don't engage with any of these people. Don't engage with who they are, what they actually believe. Just suppress them, kick them out of the event, and then we'll take the so-called real questions. Back to the real story, which is, Medicare and tax policy. Congratulations.
showing up
yeah,
to
okay.
events and
Fat
asking
cuck in the front, yarmulke on the front.
people like my friend Dan Crenshaw, Republican of Texas, and former Navy SEAL.
Okay, left-wing people. Can we skip this?
To leave.
Oh, look at this guy.
Fairly puzzled. I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Wow!
and
Well,
they're
look at
telling
some
me I
of
have
these
to
guys
leave
in
over it.
front. Oh my, it's amazing.
What's a guy gotta do?
He's bashing Nazis. Yeah, we're Nazis, sure. What does that make you? Does that make you Ergun? Does that make you the IDF?
Okay, so
Look at some
back
of
to,
these
we're going to get
people
rid
in
of all
the
these
front.
questions so we don't have to deal with them in the Q&A. So a lot of these alt-writers have been showing up at various events, and they've been asking questions like, how does anal sex help us win the culture war?
Yeah, Dave
really, this is the
Riley's
thing they've been
base
asking.
question. Yeah, it's a
I
legitimate
mean, I'm not sure how
question.
them masturbating to pictures of frogs helps win the culture war either, but
Yeah.
the purpose is to simultaneously
masturbating
pose
to
as
diapers,
edgy and
bro.
also to preserve your ability to say that you were joking. But the goal is really to suggest that if you oppose the alt-right, you're in favor of destroying the traditional family, which
Yeah,
is
you
ridiculous.
are.
Now, the actual answer, the non-snarky answer to this ridiculous question, is that
Non-snarky.
criminalizing consensual activity without externalities is by definition losing the culture war.
We're not talking. No, dummy. See, and there it is. This is why he won't take the questions, because nobody's talking about criminalizing anything. We're asking why Charlie Kirk, who has Oval Office meetings with the president, as you said, because of his father, why he is alongside Rob Smith, a black homosexual who 2 years ago said that Donald Trump was a grifter, why he's sharing the stage with Charlie Kirk and telling college students, impressionable young people, what conservatism is. Oh, well, you want to make gay sex illegal? No, bitch. We don't want to have Rob Smith on the stage with Charlie Kirk. We don't want Charlie Kirk on the stage. We want someone that's a fucking Christian on the stage. Yeah, Rob Smith says, well, God's okay with anal sex. Yeah.
What helps America win the culture war is freedom and liberty,
yeah, freedom,
and the government
sure.
not being involved in your
yeah.
life.
Oh, okay. No government.
And if you, like me, believe that
That's
certain
government.
personal activity is a sin, you know how you win that culture war? By having people join your church, by engaging with your community, by teaching your children your values. That's the way you win a culture war. In fact,
yeah, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, dummy. I just love this. We are challenging your position where you're promoting it to young people. You're promoting it to college students. Nobody's saying that you can't raise your own family. No shit, dude. What do you think is the next step? What do you think Charlie Kirk is doing? Why doesn't Charlie Kirk tell his kids about anal sex and not go on a college tour? We're trying to do the same thing they are. We're trying to spread our beliefs. We're trying to influence politics. Why does Charlie Kirk and Rob Smith have to be on the stage then talking about, oh, I'm a gay conservative, and that's great? All of these arguments are just as dishonest as they can possibly be. It's just taking what we're saying, taking the truth, and just twisting it around. He said, how does anal sex help us win the culture war? In other words, why are you promoting gay people in your culture war tour? How does promoting degeneracy and homosexuality, how does it help Christians and conservatives win the culture war? Which is an honest question. And Ben Shapiro says, well, why don't you teach your kids about Christianity? Well, we are. You know, do we not engage in politics? Why do you have a radio show then? If you have a problem with people doing BDS, tell your kids not to support BDS. Oh, you know, alt-right people are screaming in front of webcams. Yeah, I'm screaming in front of a webcam right now. What do? That's your job. You have a podcast. You're not screaming in front of a webcam. You're screaming in front of a camera that was paid for by billionaires. So it's different, you see. When Ben Shapiro does these stunts to get attention, you know, when Ben Shapiro, does these ridiculous campus tours, and he goes to, Loyola in Chicago, and he leads a march to the principal's office, that's not attention-seeking. When Ben Shapiro goes on tours and tells people what he believes or asks questions of people or does debates, well, that's his prerogative. But when we go and ask questions, well, it's sabotage, it's trolling. Freedom, bro. Why don't you use freedom, bro? When Ben Shapiro opposes transsexuality and homosexuality, well, of course, he's just saying he opposes it. But when we oppose the promotion of it, well, we want it to be illegal. The guy's just a dishonest hack.
Bewildered by it. There's great irony in watching alt-writers claim they should use the commanding heights of government to cram down their viewpoints on others, while complaining that the left uses the commanding heights of government to cram down their viewpoints on others.
That's literally not at all what we're saying. Number one, that's not what we're saying. We're saying Turning Point shouldn't promote it. And number two, yeah, there's a big difference between the government promoting what's right and the government promoting what's wrong. Ben Shapiro says, well, left-wing people forcing kids to be transgender is the same as right-wing people forcing kids to not be transgender. No, I think there's a pretty significant difference. One is evil and one is good. And I'm so tired of this, what would you even call it, ambivalence about it or whatever, but this idea that the government has to just hold everything constant, hold everything static in place, instead of going on the side of good, that we could even engage in such a state, right? In other words, that the government can make sure that good people can be good and bad people can be bad and everything's just okay. No, either evil people control the government or good people control the government. Or that's not exactly correct because there's no such thing as good and evil people. There's people that can do good and can do bad, but there's a government that has policies that promote good and there's policies that promote evil. Promoting policies that are evil is just like promoting good. The government should just not promote anything at all. Well, that's not possible. You got to pick a side. Either the government's promoting evil or complicit in it, or they're promoting good. That's all there is to it. Well, they're accusing the left of, chemically castrating boys, and that's the same as, the government being against gay marriage. Yeah, okay. I'm sure the rest of the country agrees with this.
You can't really whine about using the government to shut down your viewpoint when you plan on using the government to shut down everybody else's viewpoint.
Yeah, we can. All viewpoints are not the same.
But many folks on the alt-right are busy playing true believers by suggesting that social conservatives like me, people who wrote entire books on the evils of pornography in American society, or people like David French, who spend their days fighting for religious freedom in court, are standing ardently in favor of drag queen story hour at the local library. Okay, newsflash. I think drag queen story hours border on child abuse. I think parents who expose young children to sexualized cross-dressing adults are doing something wrong and bad. I also think...
By the way, nobody said that they're standing in favor of drag queens, obviously. We're saying if you do not oppose degeneracy where it begins, then who is to say that in 10 to 15 years you're not going to, or the conservative movement is not going to be relatively further along down the path to more degeneracy? The question is, if 10 years ago you were against gay marriage, but all of a sudden, the position is by Charlie Kirk in particular. And they also obfuscate here. I said on my show that these people are not all the same. I said Shapiro and Walsh and Knowles are good on social issues. The point for that question, and again, the deliberate confusion and obfuscation tactic, the point was directed at Charlie Kirk, who says, well, I'm against gay marriage, but I think everybody could do whatever we want. And the point is not to say that Charlie Kirk necessarily endorses Drag Queen Story Hour. The point is to say, if you go from 10 years ago, mainstream conservatism opposes gay marriage, and now you do, and anybody that opposes it is the new Westboro Baptist kids, like Benny Johnson says, then who's to say that in the next 10 years, if the radical left was at gay marriage 10 years ago, and now the right is at gay marriage today, who's to say that in 10 years the radical left is at drag queens, and then the right will be later on? In other words, if you don't take a stand for Christian principle, if Charlie Kirk will not say, I'm not going to promote homosexuality at my event, then where do you draw the line? How do you prevent that from happening? What is the limiting principle to liberal ideology like this that says, do what you want in your own homes, judge not, right? That's the argument. Ben Shapiro says, they say that we're arguing in favor of Drag Queen Story Hour. They want to criminalize homosexuality. This is why I wouldn't take the questions. Because I'm going to preempt the questions. I'm going to answer them before they get asked by twisting and manipulating them. And this is not anything remotely close to what we say. And if there was a engagement, then he would be called out on that. But he's in a room full of sycophants. It looks like the whole row is like the Zionist. The whole front row is like whatever the Zionist frat is on the campus. I don't know what it's called, but you could see the whole room is, oh, Ben, I love you. Ben, I drink out of your I drink your I don't want to say that. It's kind of vulgar, but I drink your bodily fluids out of the leftist tumbler, leftist tears tumbler, the leftist tears mug. So of course you're going to get cheers from the sycophants, but if he actually had to answer questions, well, then it'd be a different story. That's why he did this.
I also think that in governmental terms, if you allow the library to decide which speech to ban, it's much more likely to ban the Bible than Drag Queen Story Hour. I'm for limited government because I do not trust the government to decide what kind of speech it wants to ban.
Sure, yeah. So Drag Queen Story Hour goes ahead. Drag Queen Story... This is incredible by conservatives. This is what we mean by culture war. This is what we mean by waging a culture war. It means that the left is going to try to enforce this on us, and so we have to try to fight for the same thing. Ben Shapiro says, well, the left is going to enforce Drag Queen Story Hour, so just got to let them. Because you know what? If we try to enforce Christian morality, well, the left would try to enforce their thing. It's like the left is already trying to use government to enforce their thing. Ben Shapiro says, well, everybody should just agree that we shouldn't use government. Well, the left does not agree. The left does not agree. And there's a lot more leftists than there are right-wing people or classical liberals or whatever you want to call it. We saw that in the last election. We saw that in Virginia 2 days ago or yesterday. Well, you want to use government to promote Christianity, and they want to use government to promote degeneracy. Yes. At a certain point, you have to take a stand. You have to take a courageous stand. You have to have moral conviction and say that we are going to create the society that we want. Not a society where it's a free-for-all and anybody can do anything and evil people are allowed to abuse the system.
Okay, so now I'm going to knock down a few of their Q&A questions about me personally. We can go through these real quick because I don't really care about them. First, they claim that I hate Jesus. Okay, I'm a Jew. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't mean to be facetious about this, but this is obvious that I don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah. You see, I have a hat. It says the whole thing, truly.
Yeah, we know what it says, Ben. We know exactly what it says.
I'm really, really glad that Christians do. Really glad that Christians do.
Yeah,
I mean actual Christians, not the fake Christians who quote Nietzsche but don't know anything about the Gospel of John. I mean the kind who go to church and seek God's grace and love their neighbors.
I like that was literally from I know exactly what he's talking about. There's a Vice article that Will Nardi wrote about me. Will Nardi is a good friend of Cassie Dillon, who used to work for Ben Shapiro. And Will Nardi said in a Vice article that I read Nietzsche and I'm Catholic. And he was like, well, how can he read Nietzsche and be Catholic? Yeah. How could you read a book? How could you read 2 books? So Ben Shapiro is saying, well, Nick Fuentes is a fake Christian because he read Nietzsche once. Okay. So he's talking about the evangelicals who say that, those who bless Israel will be blessed and, the people that are foolishly giving money to that country. That's what he means. I love the goyim. I love Christians who will pay me, watch my advertisements, that will give me money. I love the real Christians that will give me money. I love the real Christians that will be nice to me. I love the real Christians that support my country. I love the real Christians that watch my radio show, right? Of course you do, Ben.
I'm very happy that America is largely a Christian nation. I wish it were more so. I think American-style Christianity is one of the best things to ever happen to civilization.
American-style Christianity. Ever. Of course you do. Evangelical, pro-Zionist Christianity.
My best friend and business partner is a lay minister. I employ tons of Christians. I've given them the freedom and the platform to share their faith. I've written one of the best-selling conservative books of all time that basically calls for more conservatives to go back to church and argues for the value of biblical religion. Okay, a couple more of these. They say that I want America to fight wars for Israel. Nope. First of all, Israel can take care of herself.
Then why doesn't she? Israel can take care of herself. Then why the fuck doesn't she? Is she, Why doesn't Israel take care of itself? Why do they need us occupying the Golan Heights, right? Or rather have troops stationed in Syria along the Israeli-Syrian border? Why do they need us in northeastern Syria to prevent the Assad government from consolidating control over Syria? Why do they need us to depose Saddam Hussein? That's what they wrote in the Clean Break Memo. That's what Wormser, Douglas Feith, Richard Pearl, that's what they all wrote in the Clean Break Memo in 1996 for Benjamin Netanyahu. And then they all got in the State Department and they waged war against Iraq and they planted the seeds for Syria. That's why they're always agitating for us to go to war with Iran, right? And that's why Ben Shapiro was in favor of all of it. Go back to any of his publications or his pieces back when he wrote for Town Hall 10 years ago from 2003. This guy was one of the ones that made the case for Iraq. Oh, well, they say I want war for Israel. Well, that's not true. Yes, it is. You were in favor of the war in Iraq. I believe you're in favor of regime change in Iran. I haven't kept up to date on his position on that, but Iraq is sufficient. And he's against Assad. And Israel does not take care of herself. So, all this is just not true. All this is a lie. But what more can we expect?
They say that I'm a chicken hawk. I want to send our boys to die, but I won't fight myself. Okay, reality. People who join the military are braver than I. They've sacrificed more than I. That is a fact.
You sacrifice nothing. You sacrifice
also
nothing.
A fact.
You've been given everything.
No one in America sends people to die. People volunteer for our military.
People like Richard Pearl and Douglas Feith send Americans to die for foreign interests. That's what happens. People volunteer to serve our country, and the DOD and the Pentagon and people like Wormser, Feith, Pearl, Bolton, all the rest, they send people to war. People volunteer to defend the homeland, to defend American security, and people are sent to Burkina Faso to die. For what? And this chicken hawk thing, that's not even the crux of the argument.
This has not been in effect for several decades. The people who join our military, they're not victims, and nothing annoys them more than being treated as victims by people who use them as political pawns. They don't need protection from me. I, like every other American, I have opinions on how to use the American military because we have civilian control of the military here in the United States, which is a very, very good thing. But suggesting that anybody who doesn't serve in the military can't have an opinion about the use of the military...
Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. We're asking the same questions at Dan Crenshaw's event, and Dan Crenshaw lost his eye in the Middle East, dummy.
Suggesting that anybody who is not a police officer can't have opinions about how the police ought to be used. By the way, our soldiers don't need the victimology, the sort of patting on the back of a bunch of weak, effeminate losers.
We can't take care of anybody. We can't take care of anybody.
They are stronger than you. Okay.
We cannot defend anybody's concerns other than our own, right, Ben Shapiro? Yeah, we cannot defend the veterans. We cannot defend, veterans are dying at the VA. They're tougher than you, bro. Shut up about the VA. If they care about that, they can talk about it themselves, people are getting their lives destroyed. Their jobs are being stolen from immigrants or sent overseas. They're pretty tough. They're working on a factory. They're tougher than you. They don't need you to stick up for them. Nobody should stick up for them. They can take care of themselves. So what are you doing then? If Israel's so strong, why does Israel need you to stick up for Israel then, huh? Israel's tougher than you, Ben. IDF is way tougher than you. Why do they need you to shill for them in all your articles on Daily Wire, all your videos on PragerU? Just completely non sequitur, This victimology, trigger, safe space, this whole vocabulary is designed it's sophistry is what it is.
Other ones. I attacked the Covington kids. I mean, this one is so absurd. I literally was on the phone with the Covington. I know them personally. I was on the phone with them nearly every night, guiding them in the media and through legal strategy. Okay, I haven't revealed that publicly until now, but now that this accusation is out there, I may as well say it. You can call them, you can ask them.
That's so convenient. Yeah, it's so convenient that after you attacked them and then got backlash and you're a major media figure who could help them, that's incredible. That's so incredible. And what's amazing about this is it's like the question is not, one of the questions we were going to ask was not, why did you attack, or rather, it was not about him attacking the Covington kids in itself. It was, why did you go at the left-wing media right away instead of Trump-supporting, anti-abortion Catholic teenagers? That was the question. So, whether or not you called them afterwards and said, I'm sorry, I'm rich and I can give you legal advice and I'm famous, that's irrelevant. The question is, why is it that when the media pulled up white Trump-supporting Catholic teenagers, anti-abortion teenagers, why did you immediately side with the left? What about that situation screamed to you that you should join the chorus of left-wing people ruining kids' lives? He said, this is absurd, and I've never revealed it until now. How convenient that I actually know them. Okay, why did you attack them then, Ben? That doesn't mean you didn't attack them. Okay, you made a mistake. Well, why did you make that mistake? We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty.
Okay, they also suggest, these folks, that I didn't defend so-and-so when they were banned from social media. That's probably a lie. I've basically defended everyone from being banned from social media, including people who have targeted me. Except for
James Alsop, except for any of the major people. Did he defend American Renaissance? No. Did he defend James Alsop? No. Did he defend Jared Taylor? He did not. Did he defend anybody that he would classify in his own subjective way as alt-right? Did he defend Faith Goldie? Didn't hear about that. More lies. More lies.
Risk threats for me. Okay, another one they
didn't defend the Stormer,
right, I make money. Welcome to America. We have lots of sponsors. I'm very grateful for my sponsors. And I'm not going to apologize for the fact that I offer my sponsors a way to reach my audience. I'm very proud of them. I think their products are good. That's why I talk about them.
I love products.
If it makes me money at the same time, great. I'm out to make money. I like money.
Clip that. Somebody clip that.
Congratulations. It's a free market economy.
I'm out to make money. I love money. I'm all about money. Okay, man, your words. I didn't say that. Is Ben Shapiro going to clip this in his next speech? When he does his next monologue about me, is he going to say, Nick Fuentes said that Nick Fuentes said about me that I love money and I'm out to make money. Isn't that so anti-Semitic? Is he going to do that for the next one? Really? Your words, bro, your words. Yeah, I'm not out to make money. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to make a living. I like to make money, but I don't do advertisements. I don't give a shit about products. I don't give a shit about advertisers reaching their consumers. What the fuck does that mean? I'm proud that I give a platform to advertisers to reach their consumers. What the fuck are you talking about? You're supposed to be some kind of political activist or something? Don't you have any kind of deep-seated concern about the country? I'm out to make money. I'm out to make money. I'm out to make money. I'm trying to create a platform for advertisers to reach consumers. That's not what I'm about. I've gotten big advertisement offers. I've gotten big money offers to do all kinds of things, and I turn them down. The only people that fund my show are the people that watch it. I've been offered countless. I got offered advertisements this week after all this is going on. CBD oil, soap. Soap was one of them. T-shirts, books. I've gotten all kinds of advertisement offers. Small ones, big ones. I turn them all down because I don't work for advertisers. I don't do this for money. I hope that my viewers will support me with money so I can make a living. It'd be nice for them to support a comfortable lifestyle. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not out to make money. If I was out to make money, I would have stayed in school. I would have worked for Daily Wire. I would have worked for the Republican Party. I would have been a consultant. So no, we're not all out to make money. That's not what America's about. America's a free market. That's what it's about. No, that's not what America's about, actually. So I think that belies the whole worldview right there. Oh, they call me a grifter because I make money. No, we call you a grifter because you say things like, I'm out to make money. And your whole platform is a lie. Your whole platform is a hoax. You are out essentially to scam people for money. It's not wrong inherently to make money, but it's wrong when that's all you're out to do. You know, you give live speeches at a pro-life rally, and in the middle of it, you do 4 advertisements for life insurance and pillows. Seriously? For ZipRecruiter? Anybody catch that? He was at some pro-life demonstration over the summer. He did a live taping of his podcast. Even though it was a live taping for, how many moms, how many families there to stand up against abortion. He did 4 advertisements. Oh, well, ZipRecruiter, buy life insurance, buy my product. Well, I'm glad you're really proud of advertisers bringing their goods, bringing their wares to the market. That's really incredible, dude. You're a hero.
Okay, now to a few of their more policy-based claims. When you aren't lying about me or Matt Walsh or Charlie Kirk or David French or Dan Crenshaw, these folks are busy playing defender of the realm by suggesting that all immigration be shut down on the basis of race. Not on the basis of economics, on the basis of race.
Yes, correct.
Let's be clear. Every country has the right and duty to defend its borders. I was for a Trump wall before Trump was for a Trump wall.
Yeah, this is obfuscation. No, pause. This is obfuscation. We're not talking about illegal immigration. We're talking about legal immigration. They always do this. Charlie Kirk will always say, well, I'm always against line cutters and border jumpers. Okay, answer the fucking question. Because, sure, there's a lot of line jumpers and border crossers coming over, something like 1.5, 2 million every year. But, there's more than 1 million legal immigrants coming over through visas, green cards, all kinds of things like that, temporary work permits. And that's a problem. But, I always think we should defend our border.
Legal immigration has been overall, not always, but overall, a massive boon to the United States.
Wrong. Maybe to its
economy. In periods in which it is not, that's because government has basically failed to take into account economic, education, and cultural status of new immigrants. The government should take all those factors into account. Again, economic, educational, and cultural status, all of that should be taken into account. And then we should welcome new immigrants who benefit the United States. This is all very logical. By the way, I'm confused by the idea that we should not be attempting to create a brain drain to the United States by drawing immigrants who are highly qualified here.
Okay, yeah. Immigration helps us. Immigration helps us. Yeah, want to go there? You want to go there? I got the receipts for it. This is from We Wanted Workers by George Borjas, one of the top immigration economists in the country, out of Princeton University. He's an immigrant himself. He says that if you break down welfare usage by household, you'll find that 44.7% of Hispanic immigrants are on some form of welfare, 44% of Hispanic households, 62% of Hispanic households are on some form of welfare if you use a more accurate study. 47.2% of black households use welfare, and we find that with natives, it's only 27.4% of households that are using welfare. There's a number of other statistics in here, which I just have to find in a moment. Let's see. This is from Table 9.3. It's the long-run fiscal impact of the average immigrant. Long-run fiscal impact. Fiscal meaning budgetary impact for the federal government of an average immigrant from the 2016 NAS report. Assuming that immigrants increase the cost of public goods, which they do, and assuming the current path of taxes and spending continues in the future, which we should, the average fiscal impact of the average immigrant in the long run is $119,000 a debit. Average cost for an immigrant in the long term on the federal government is $119,000. We brought in 60 million immigrants in the last 70 years. You do the math. $120,000 per person is a long-term budgetary impact for them. And that isn't even, that's before we even get to GDP. There's a fiscal impact, but of course we also have to look at the economic impact. Yeah, we have data that shows that the total increase in GDP, this is the short-run immigration surplus in 2015 from a study. It's an updated study from George Borjas in the Journal of Economic Perspectives. The total increase in GDP accrued from immigrants to our economy was $2.1 trillion. Immigrants added $2.1 trillion to the economy with a short-run surplus. Out of that $2.1 trillion that immigrants added to the economy, $2.053 trillion went to the immigrants themselves. The benefits accrued to themselves. So fully, out of $2.1 trillion, $2.05 trillion, the benefits accrued to the immigrants, meaning 50, what would that be? That would mean $50 billion was what native people got out of mass immigration. So, he likes to say, immigration has been a boon for the country. Yeah, wrong. Immigration has caused more crime, more welfare usage. It's cost us money in terms of the federal budget. It's cost us money if you look at the impact on GDP. So you could say that, but, that's just not true. And anyway, we're not even arguing on an economic basis.
If you're America first, why don't you want more smart, principled people coming into the United States to make us stronger and simultaneously
Because it doesn't make us stronger. Because it doesn't make us stronger. Bringing in people that will not assimilate does not make our country stronger. And by the way, they're not smart. The average IQ of the Hispanic immigrants coming into the country is 85, and it doesn't change over 4 generations. That's according to Jason Richwine. You watch, there's a whole video he does at, I think, the Social Contract Conference, where he talks about high school graduation rates, English literacy, identification with America and its culture does not change after 3 or 4 generations for Hispanic immigrants. So they're not assimilating. Frankly, they're not smart, or they're not as smart as the people here. They're not benefiting the country. And if you want to talk about people from China or India, well, then they're just not our people. If we're going to go on economics, well, I can tell you you're wrong about that. But we're not even concerned about that. We're talking about the cohesion of the nation. We're talking about the social fabric, which you say you care about. They do not make America stronger. Is LA strong? Is San Francisco strong? Is New York City strong? Or are they weak and chaotic and dominated by oligarchs and political cronies? Filled with shit and crime. Yeah, that's the image of strength, right? As opposed to North Dakota and Idaho.
Then you get the questions about Israel and suggesting that if you're pro-Israel, this means prioritizing America over Israel. That's absolute nonsense. If America had a policy that was not good for Israel but was good for America, I would back it. They talk about the USS Liberty incident.
Wait, when has he ever? He's never done this. I would. That's a very easy hypothetical when you've never done that.
There have been multiple studies, U.S. Navy, Joint Chiefs of Staff, CIA, House, Senate, NSA. Most of the reports, according to historian Richard Brownell, do not assign culpability for the incident. They focus on communications failures. I have to say I'm a little bit bewildered why you're so obsessed with an incident that is now 52 years old. If you have theories that are better than those of the American government, they've got operators standing by, feel free to dial them and tell them about your 5-decade-old theories about a military incident from the 1967.
You want to hear about the USS Liberty? The USS Liberty Veterans Association maintains that the ship was deliberately attacked. They are offering a $10,000 prize for anyone who can prove the claim that the USS Liberty was properly investigated. That's the Liberty Veterans Association. But all the studies say, except for the Veterans Association of the survivors of the Liberty. The Secretary of State at the time, Dean Rusk, says, quote, "I was never satisfied with the Israeli explanation. Their sustained attack to disable and sink Liberty precluded an assault by accident or some trigger-happy local commander. Through diplomatic channels, we refused to accept their explanations. I didn't believe them then, and I don't believe them to this day. The attack was outrageous." At the 99th National Convention of the American Legion, delegates passed Resolution 40, which noted the following, quote, "According to the CIA, information reports from June and October 1967, sources in Tel Aviv reported, quote, Israel's forces knew exactly what flag the Liberty was flying. And Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Dayan said, quote, personally ordered the attack on the Liberty over the objections of senior uniformed military personnel, one of whom characterized the attack as pure murder. Richard Helms, the director of the CIA from 1966 to 1973, stated in a 1984 CIA interview, quote, "Everything possible is done to keep from the American public really the enormity of this attack on an American naval vessel." And quote, "Since this is for the agency's record, I don't think there can be any doubt that the Israelis knew exactly what they were doing. Any statement to the effect that they didn't know that it was an American ship is nonsense." Lieutenant General Marshall S. Carter, the director of the NSA from 65 to 69, recalled in a 1988 NSA interview that he stated at a congressional hearing in 1967 that the attack on the Liberty, quote, "couldn't be anything else but deliberate. There's just no way you could have a series of circumstances that would justify it being an accident." And Carter indicated this remained his belief in 1988. In a 2003 affidavit published in the Congressional Record, Captain Ward Boston Jr., the legal counsel for the 1967 Navy Court of Inquiry, stated, quote, "I know from personal conversations I had with Admiral Kidd, the president of the Court of Inquiry, that President Lyndon Johnson, the Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, ordered him to conclude that the attack was a case of, quote, mistaken identity, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary." And lastly, according to the findings published in the Congressional Record of the 2003 Independent Commission of Inquiry, chaired by former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Thomas Moorer, quote, "There's compelling evidence that Israel's attack was a deliberate attempt to destroy an American ship and kill her entire crew." And, quote, "The White House deliberately covered up the facts of this attack." But all the studies, and you should just call someone and tell them your theories. Call someone, and it happened like a long time ago, but all the studies say it was an accident. Yeah, except for the survivors, the USS Liberty Veterans Association, the Secretary of State at the time, the director of the CIA at the time. You also have the CIA in an official report. You've got the Lieutenant General, the director of the NSA at the time, and you've got the Congressional Captain. You've also got the Congressional Record Independent Commission of Inquiry and the American Legion. But, all the studies say, all the studies say that it was totally accidental. Give me a break. Where's the facts and feelings here? And you want to know why it matters? Because why would you be dishonest about this? If it didn't matter, why would you lie about it? Why would you ignore the question? How about somebody gets up to Dan Crenshaw on the microphone and says on June 8th, 1967, and he gets immediately exited from the stage? If it's not such a big deal, why do you go to such great lengths to cover it up? It's because it tells you everything you need to know, that Israel's not our ally, that Israel pursues its interests wherever and whenever it can at the expense of ours, and we don't reciprocate. And if Lyndon Johnson and all the rest did cover it up, that tells you about the nature of the Israel lobby and their government and ours. It happened 50 years ago. What does it even matter? Well, how about I made a joke about something that happened 80 years ago and you read that out verbatim in your fucking speech?
Six-Day War. It's a direct and vital interest now in 2019.
Yeah, but the Holocaust is, right, Ben Shapiro?
Okay, speaking of Europe, they tend to say that they like white European ideals, not Western ideals. Western ideals would be a thing, right?
Correct.
Because you can read about Western ideals in books. White European ideals. I'm wondering exactly what they're talking about. They're not talking about Christian ideals. You can read about those in books too, right? Or Judeo-Christian ideals, which I talk about, right? Instead, they talk about white European ideals. I'm confused. What are white ideals? What do white ideals look like? Do white ideals look like, like the professors at these universities who are overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly socialist?
Oh, but they're socialist.
What do white ideals look like? How about
European? I'll tell you. I love how you asked that question. What does that look like? I don't know. People disagree. I think everybody understands exactly what that means. Nobody's talking that white people have one idea. That's obviously not it. And this is why he did it this way. I'll preempt your questions. Yeah, these are not our questions. Nobody's talking about white European ideals. We're talking about white European culture. We're talking about a white European society. We're talking about the mannerisms and customs of white people. Obviously. Sure, maybe black people don't have shared values, but they have a shared culture. They have a shared kinship. They have shared mannerisms. Things that go back, these people have been in the country for 500 years, and they have a culture that's diverging from ours and was never the same. I'm going to pretend I don't know. I'm going to pretend that there's as much of a difference between an Englishman and a Russian as there is between an Englishman and a Nigerian, and somebody from Zimbabwe, right? That's what he's saying. Well, what is white? What is European? Yeah, because there's as much of a difference between a Spanish person and a French person than there is between a Spanish person and an Aboriginal Australian, right? Pretend not to know what we're talking about
like
more.
The socialists over in various parts of Europe. Are you really happy with how Germany's being governed right now, are you?
But they're socialist. It doesn't matter. If they're socialist, it doesn't look like the south side of fucking Chicago. They might be socialists in Vermont. We wouldn't know because they're not killing each other every day. That's what we're talking about.
What do European ideals look like to you? Do the white communists at Berkeley have these white European ideals? Race does not have ideals. It's just a melanin level.
There it is. And then you have a complete rejection of race. Race, of course, is not just a melanin level. Race is real, obviously, you know. The idea, it's just what color you are. And this is the crux of it. The man doesn't believe in race, except for when it comes to Israel. Of course race is real. Of course race determines things. It's been proven. It's been proven in social studies. It's been proven in genetic studies. Of course it's different. You just look at group differences in IQ, which Ben Shapiro acknowledges. Ben Shapiro will acknowledge that group differences exist in IQ, racial differences, but he says, but skin color is all that race is. Race doesn't have ideology. Maybe not, but race does have other characteristics. It's just melanin level. Who's the leftist here? It's the same people saying race is a social construct that would agree with this.
It's just a skin color or a place of origin. If you think it does, you're absolutely indistinguishable. You are identical to the identity politics left, to the intersectional left.
It's the opposite. They think race is a social construct.
And then the alt-righters talk about how white people are superior to others, but their own idiocy and bigotry demonstrates that isn't true.
For excusing the obviously, they say that white people are smarter, but they're dumb. Nice argument, faggot. But beyond that, nobody who has asked a question, who supports my show, has ever said white people are superior. I've never said that. I've actually repeatedly said that I don't even identify as white. And that's why he doesn't have a clip for that. He's got a clip for every other thing I've said, going back 5 fucking years, from Charlottesville and from obscure posts about me in Vice or whatever. They think white people are superior. Yeah, can I get a source on that? When has that ever been said? I explicitly said yesterday that we're all equal before God.
They talk about the demographic shift in the country is ruinous. They point to the fact that non-white folk tend to vote Democrat, but this ignores that voting is malleable. The fact is that a huge percentage of California Hispanics vote for Democrats. 80% of Florida Hispanics currently favor Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, I just went over this. We caught the tail end of the speech. I think we got to this point. Do you know why this is dishonest? Obviously, California's Hispanics are Mexicans. Florida's Hispanics are largely Cuban. It is 100% specific to what's happening in Florida. Not all Hispanics are the same, true. Yeah, some of them, because of this law, because of a accident of history, essentially. Cuba had a communist regime. America, during the Cold War, passed a law that said that if you get on the land, we will make you a citizen. If you're a Cuban escaping the communist regime. The people fleeing Cuba, they supported the Cold Warrior Ronald Reagan. They supported the conservatives that opposed communism. That's a little bit different than the Mexican invasion that's happening in Texas, California, Arizona, and I say that as somebody that's Mexican. The constitution of immigrants since 1965 is 50% Hispanics. Of the 50% of Hispanics, 50% of those are Mexicans. So Mexicans have accounted for fully 25% of all immigration since 1965, of the 60 million or something like this. So when we're talking about Texas, we're talking about Arizona, California, we're not talking about Cubans that escaped Fidel Castro. We're talking about Mexicans who you would be pressed to find a state, a race, a national race where they vote more than 35% in favor of a Republican. Even in this example, he says, with DeSantis, they voted 40% for a Republican. Can you find an example where they vote over 50%? Because I can't. They voted 80% for Beto O'Rourke because his name was Beto. It's malleable. Where does that happen? If you look at the data, Asians vote for Democrats as they become more assimilated. As Asians become more assimilated over generations, they tend to vote for Democrats more. In other words, the racial divergence between natives and immigrants increases as they stay here longer, as opposed to the opposite. And how about blacks? Does anybody want to talk about how they voted 97% for Barack Obama? Or how they voted 91% for Hillary Clinton? Yeah, that's really malleable. Voting is malleable. Okay, tell me when blacks vote more than 20% for a Republican in this century. Voting is malleable. Not in the next 15 years it isn't. 75% for Chinese and Indians, 90% for blacks, 67% for Hispanics. In the next 20 years, it's going to become a majority non-white country, and specifically in states, in Texas, in Georgia, in Florida, in Arizona, Colorado, Virginia. We saw it 2 days ago. The composition of these states goes from people that, if you look at Hispanic immigrants, 1 in 10 of them identify as Republican. 1 in 20 illegal Hispanics identify as Republicans, from Pew Research. this happening in 10, 20 years. Maybe it's malleable over a millennium, but we don't have a millennium. How can you say you're a social conservative when you're in favor of bringing people over who, at a rate of 1 to 10, support the Republican Party if they're legal, 1 to 20 if they're illegal, who are voting for Democrats, obviously, left-wing policies? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's just, and this is just lies. This is what I said. It's obfuscation, complete obfuscation. This is why I didn't want us to ask the questions, because somebody might have called them on that. He's going to pretend like, oh, the Florida Hispanics are the same as California, and we're not even going to mention Texas and the electoral math and all that. Bro, I'm smarter. I'm smarter than you are. Sorry, I'm smarter than you are. I'm better than you are. You know, what does Jacob Sartorius say? Well, he actually says something about the opposite. He says, what is it? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It's actually the opposite. I'm just more hardworking and more talented than Ben Shapiro.
One way, because race is not the basis for voting. Ethnicity is not the basis for voting. Okay. Culture may be the basis for voting, but ethnicity
Tell
is
that
not.
to the
Race
blacks that voted
Again,
97% for Barack
factor.
Obama.
Culture is a different thing. That affects how people think. But none of this is about reality. Okay, so we have step 1, and that is you masquerade as a MAGA Nick. And then we have step 2,
MAGA
and that is you claim that you're the true believer. And then we have step 3, which is to troll, right? You just show up at places like this, and you say dumb things, then you tell your friends how cool you are, and you tell edgy jokes about the Holocaust and cookies, because, I mean, what could be funnier than that, obviously?
I love how he's just seething about it. Yeah, try to come up with a funny joke, faggot. And then you like to make edgy jokes because that's cool. Yeah, try getting it out, faggot.
I mean, that's just good stuff.
That's just
and then
good
finally,
stuff. Yeah,
and
it
this
is.
is the big one. You count
Funnier
on the
than
left
you.
to help you out. And this is where this nefarious alliance that I've been talking about between the alt-right and the hardcore left comes in. And believe you me, the radical left will. I mean, we've seen proof of it here tonight. I'm here decrying for 40 minutes the evils of the alt-right and white supremacism. And there are people up there calling me an alt-right white supremacist.
Those beady little eyes.
Okay, the left will literally
that's
call
what gets
anybody
me,
on the right alt-right, even
eyes.
if we say vocally and in no uncertain terms that the alt-right is pure, unbridled, vile
Aryan.
garbage. Even if members of the alt-right
Yo,
target
Aryan
those people
check?
on the
Yes.
mainstream right. Even if Donald Trump condemns the worldview. Listen, you can argue with anything mainstream conservatives say. It's a free country. We disagree with each other pretty frequently, but there's no doubt that mainstream conservatives are pretty easily distinguishable from the alt-right. But it doesn't matter.
True.
The media will lie about this anyway. So the Boston Globe
True, they are distinguished from us.
will call my website, the Daily Wire, an alt-right outpost. We force them to recant. The Economist will call me the alt-right sage without the rage. We'll force them to recant. Over at Boston University, where I'm speaking next week, they're festooning posters of my face with a Hitler mustache, which makes perfect sense.
Which makes perfect sense. He's not even funny. He's just these snarky little... Psych! That makes perfect sense. It actually doesn't. Funny, dude. Really funny.
Students
Bro,
at this
LMFAO,
university
I'm
will
wheezing.
mob people trying to put up posters for a lecture. They'll tear down banners advertising the speech and replace it with a banner reading, "Be tolerant, accept racism." I challenge you to find anything in this speech or anything else I have said that is racist. Really, I'm waiting. Operators on standby. They'll issue a flyer that literally depicts me as a cockroach on a bottle of bug
we
spray
know
with
that
the
you're
label
not
"Ben Be
racist.
Gone." I do love that one, I will say. That was pretty great. I think that my favorite thing about that is that these people, they hear dog whistles everywhere. Right? Donald Trump
Okay, yeah. You're
will
not a
say something
racist.
and they will, oh, it's a dog whistle. I say Judeo-Christian values, which is obviously untrue. Dog whistles everywhere, just dog whistles everywhere. Intersectional hierarchy of victimhood. Very odd. For every other group, we have to be careful of dog whistles that don't even make sense. When it comes to the Jews, you're like, I'll put him on a bottle of Bug Be Gone, this Jew right here. Maybe it's, I have a feeling, it might be because, unfortunately for the intersectional left, Jews don't actually count as a quote-unquote minority group.
What are you talking about? Bro, what are you talking about? I get called anti-Semitic all day long by the left. What a fucking lie that is. The guy talking about victimology. Yeah, the troops don't get sent anywhere. They just get deployed and they die for Israel, right? But we're victims of anti-Semitism, and the only dog whistles are against Jews, and Jews don't even get protected by the left. What are you talking about? Of course they do. Of course they do. What about Bill Maher? Bill Maher said the N-word. Anybody remember that?
And the only minority groups are the ones that they perceive are victimized. Jews aren't victimized enough, despite the fact that on a per capita basis, Jews are the most victimized group in the United States.
There it is. No, but we're the only
isn't particularly
victims.
close,
The
by the way.
eternal victim.
But it's
Eternal
not just
victim.
the students at this university. The media will suggest that President Trump is in league with the alt-right. Even at this late date, they'll
Lying
neglect
piece of
the
shit.
fact that Trump has repeatedly condemned white supremacism. that he has purged his administration of people who were remotely friendly with the alt-right, people like Steve Bannon. They'll simply overlook that Trump
That's not why.
he
He didn't purge Steve Bannon because he was alt-right. He purged Steve Bannon because Steve Bannon was a leaker and untrustworthy. And that's not like it's, oh, well, look, Donald Trump is just proving that he's, like, not racist. Yeah, great job. I'm sure you'll defeat the left trying to prove to them how not racist you are, right?
Supremacists, they'll declare that the MAGA hat is indeed a Nazi swastika. So, clarification for people on the left who apparently can't listen or read. If someone believes that all men are created equal, and men means like mankind, that's what the word meant when it was written in the Declaration of Independence, you idiots. If someone believes that all men are created equal, that every American should have equality before the law, in free market capitalism and small government, and equal rights for people of all races, that person is not on the alt-right. In fact, they despise the alt-right, and the alt-right despises them. But people on the left know this. They just prefer the lie. Why? Because their goal is to delegitimize the entire right. The goal is to smear the entire right with the label alt-right, to shut the Overton window to everybody who's anywhere to the right of Hillary Clinton.
That's like the reverse of being true. You're trying to shut the Overton window to anybody to the right of you. That's what you're trying to do. We're doing the opposite. We're trying to blow the doors open on the Overton window. The left hates us. Go ahead, ask Jared Holt, ask anybody. They would much prefer that we all be dead on the so-called, alt-right, on the America First right. They would much prefer you over us, and everybody knows that. Just take a look at who they attack. Jared Holt does hit pieces about me. He's been doing that since I had a show that barely got 1,000 views per episode. Yeah, the left really loves us. That's why Jared Holt tries to dox us, and Will Sommers is reaching out to our people and whatever.
The New York Times splashed a photo collage on their front page of me and Milton Friedman and Dave Rubin and Richard Spencer. The goal was to lump everybody together and then suggest that we are radicalizing the American population, as though Richard Spencer and I have a damn thing in common. For the first thing, I can read.
he can't read. What a fucking... I just can't get over it, man. Well, I can read. Well, they say they're white supremacists, but they're dumb. You're an idiot. I mean, this is like pathetic weasel of a man. A weaselly, sad, small, little man. And I'm not talking about stature. I'm talking about who the man is. Dishonest, lying, juvenile, pathetic, uncharismatic creep. This is who we're talking about. Scum of the earth. And I know we're going to win. I watched the speech and I know we're going to win because these people, they're terrible and people can see that. I think you're awful.
Political correctness is a weapon for the left, but it's also a weapon
Ben Shapiro says, I'll tell you. What does he say? And I'll tell you, not everyone, Arthur, is awful. I think you're awful, Ben. Inviting me on this show. Doing this, changing the title of your speech. Making your monologue about me. You just wanted to attack me. What about you? Look at what you did with those cookie jokes. I know. How about another joke, Ben? I think we've had enough of your jokes, Nick. What do you get?
The alt-right. Harvard professor Steven Pinker.
Ben, do you ever leave the Daily Wire studio? Do you ever think what it's like to be anybody but yourself? To be somebody like me? To be anybody but yourself? They don't. They think that we'll just sit there and take it like good little boys. That we won't werewolf and go wild. Well, it seems like you've got an awful lot of sympathy for yourself.
Who the left tried to cancel for saying this, made this clear last year. He was saying that political correctness is a way for the left to shut down debate. By shutting down debate, they actually open the door to the alt-right because they say you can't ask certain questions. Then the questions get asked, they shut it down, and people go, wait, I'll just look online for the answer, and the first answer they find might be something from an alt-right website, and they start to take it more seriously. Right? This is something Steven Pinker said, so the left called him alt-right and shut him down. There's something that's the most nefarious of all when it comes to these sort of de facto playing off each other political lines between the far left and the alt-right, and that is that they actually mirror themselves in politics and culture. They both have an identity politics view. As I say, the left's view of American politics is that Americans can be identified by group. Americans are black or Hispanic or white or green or Jewish or lesbian, or in the best of all possible worlds, a half Native American, half black, little person who is gender fluid. Right? If you're on the left, you don't describe people by their belief system or by what they do. You describe them by their attributes.
Yo, laugh it up.
Attributes.
LMFAO, Ben. Ben, you slayed me with that one. And bro, I'm wheezing right now. I am going to laugh I am going to laugh. Little person of color. I am going to laugh. Yeah, good one, bro. Good one, Sheldon.
Whole intersectional hierarchy deciding how victimized you are based on how many of these boxes you check. The only difference between the left and the alt-right is that they reverse the hierarchy, meaning that the left thinks that hierarchy is bad.
Yeah,
right?
that's the only difference. The only difference between America First and the left is, well, we're just white supremacists and they're black supremacists. No other differences. No other differences. Yeah, that's an honest take, Ben.
And then progressively you go all the way down to the bottom and you get to the LGBT people, and those are the people who are the least powerful according to this hierarchy. And they say that hierarchy is bad, we should just flip the hierarchy. And then you have the alt-right, and they say, no, the hierarchy is good, and we should keep the hierarchy the way that it is. And then there's all the rest of us who are like, what hierarchy? There shouldn't be a hierarchy.
That's
not
what the hell
conservative. Are you talking about? We're individuals. We live in a free country.
No, wrong. You're not individuals. There's no such thing. Clearly, you being Jewish influences your identity. Clearly, and anyway, even if you were continuously campaigning against that, people would never stop seeing themselves as tribal, as men and women, as Christians or Muslims. You cannot obfuscate away these identities with all this liberal ideology. Well, we're all just liberal individuals. No, we're fucking not. Maybe you believe that. Maybe you could say you believe that. Your audience can say that, but it's not true. It's not true. People are not atomic. People are not in themselves. People have fathers and mothers. They've got siblings. They had teachers, they have peers, they grew up in a specific place, in a specific time, and they are influenced by all of it. These things are immutable. The idea, I'm just transcendent, I'm just this sort of impersonal brain outside of my body. I'm not influenced by my genetics, by my ancestry, by my upbringing, my environment, anything. I'm just this, I'm a brain in a vat. I'm a brain in a vat, and my body and everything about me is just been programmed. It's just a series of stimuli to my liberal blank slate brain. Give me a break, dummy. Who believes this shit?
All of this is terrible for the country. It's terrible for the discourse. We should be able to ask tough questions and answer them. We should. We should be able to have conversations. And we should also be able to see the difference between good, fact-based, rational answers and identity politics bullshit pandering, which is a specialty, unfortunately, of both the radical left and the alt-right.
This is literally, the whole speech is pandering.
Have the conversation. The alt-right really doesn't want to either. They prefer memeing and trolling. And
That's literally not true. That's so not true. What do you think the Q&A was about? The Q&A was about a conversation. It was your guys that shut it down. It's the dishonesty. It's like palpable. It's in the air. Can you like reach out and grasp it? Can you physically feel it and touch it? Is it tangible? He starts out by saying, well, we're not taking questions. These are not real questions. I'm going to preempt them all, and then we'll take the real ones. He does a whole monologue about me without naming me or without ever engaging with me. And then at the end, he says, the alt-right would never engage. Well, hitting them for asking questions at Charlie Kirk's event where they get exited or their questions are dismissed and they're called names. It's just so wrong. It's just so wrong on so many levels. What he's saying is not true. It's immoral. It's unethical. Everything that he's doing is just wrong. He is a liar. He is a liar. As Jesse Lee Peterson would say, he is a child of the lie. We know what it's about. It's a battle between truth and lies. It's a battle between good and evil. That's what this is.
The rest. So, here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Anyone on the right or left who wants to have an actual conversation about tough issues, that isn't the bumper sticker, but is also not willing to pretend that ugly bigotry is decency, or that identity politics reflects truth, or that trollish memeing is a substitute for an actual worldview. Let's have the conversation. Thanks so much. Happy to take your questions.
Yeah. I love how the whole monologue, 45 minutes of him talking, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll cut it off because it's midnight. This guy does a 45-minute monologue about me. He doesn't say my name once throughout the whole video. He strawmans all of our arguments. He kicked all of our people out of the event or wouldn't let them line up for questions. I'll preempt their questions. I'll say their questions in a wrong way and then answer them in a way that's convenient for me. The guy smears me on Twitter all the time. He says, I would never censor somebody. Yeah, you just tweet to your 2 million followers clips of me that are intended to get me banned, right? So after all this, then at the end he says, well, I'll debate anybody who isn't a racist memer. Let's have a conversation. How does anybody believe this shtick? How does anybody watch this? I guess they're just ignorant. Anybody could watch this, must just be totally and completely ignorant of the whole score. These tactics could not be more dishonest. You know, he's going to attack somebody for 45 minutes, me, who is not there. I have no representatives there to ask questions. He won't even name me, won't debate me, won't engage. I mean, that notwithstanding. And then at the end, he's going to say, let's have a conversation. Let's have my controlled conversation. We're not asking any of the wrong questions. Any of the wrong questions are trolling. The wrong questions are the alt-right and neo-Nazis. It speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. I don't know if I'll go back and chop this up and edit it. You know, maybe I'll put in some quotations from here. Everything that he says about us and our worldview can be backed up with data, with facts. The guy that's talking about facts, don't care about his feelings, is pretty light on citations tonight, on quotations and on other things. So I don't know if I'm going to chop this up, and I don't even know where I'd begin, how to do that, but I think it'd be worth exposing this. I don't know how you get it to a big audience. Maybe I publish it on my channel, but this really deserves to be scrutinized because this is the strategy. This was the big counterattack. This was their Normandy, I guess you could say, or something like that. This was intended for Ben Shapiro to come out there, intellectual heavyweight, and now all the fake conservatives are lining up and saying, wow, this was the moment. This was the big speech. Because now their campaign is, well, the purges didn't work, the white supremacy smear didn't work, the doxing didn't work, the deplatforming didn't work. So they're alt-right 2.0, and if everyone just says it enough, then people will be convinced of it, and they'll not be credible. But that's not going to work because it's all wrong. And we're going to come on Sunday, the Turning Point event. We're going to come on Tuesday and on Wednesday. And let me just tell you, they made their lives a lot harder. We tried to play nice. We tried to play by their rules. We showed up to their Q&As. We lined up. We listened. We asked politely. And now maybe that has to change. If this is how it's going to go, I don't know. Maybe we're going to have to try different tactics. We thought this might happen. Certainly I've got some things in my sleeve. And so we'll see what happens by SAS. I'll just say that. What is it, December 19th through December 22nd? Let's just say we'll see what happens by SAS. You know, there's some emails, there are some statements, some stories that I've heard. Didn't want to have to play this way, but if this is what they're going to do, then we'll have to play dirty. But that's the stream. You know, kind of a long night. I've been streaming since what 7:30, so I've been streaming for 4.5 hours, if you can believe it. But hey, I apologize. I didn't get a chance to read all the lino. It looks like we had 12 Ninjaginis, 2 Ninjets. Big Money Wagey gave 37,000 lino points. That's insane. Thank you so much to all the people that sent lino, or lemons now, I guess it is. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to read them, but I'm kind of heated right now. Kind of a lot going on. But hey, thanks to everybody that gave lemons. I really do appreciate it. It's been a huge week for the show. None of this would be possible, and I know it's kind of gay to say. It's kind of like, but none of it would be possible without you guys, without the super chats, the lemons, and all this. You know, that's just it. Ben Shapiro said, I'm here to make money. I'm not here to make money. Ben Shapiro's out there to make money, and he's quite good at it. I tell the truth, and the money comes because people see the value in what I do, and I appreciate the people that do that. I'm going to open the chest as well. I'm not going to forget. I'll open the chest. So if you're here, stay tuned. I'm distributing the chest. 5.5K lino, but as it's being distributed, I'll continue to talk. But it is true, you know. The people that are watching this, the people that are turning out to these events, the people that are retweeting this, and the brave people like Michelle Malkin and some of these other high-profile people. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of people that are explicitly defending us. But, you know, everybody that's been a part of this, everybody that's been defending us behind the scenes, on the front lines, on Twitter, whatever. This is a fight. This is a war. I said this a couple of days ago. This is a war. We have been winning uncontested so far. We have gotten the first major counteroffensive. And it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a fight, and it's going to be asymmetrical. It's going to be an uphill battle. But we are here to fight it. I think in some ways this might have been a victory. This just legitimized us. This just cemented the fact that we are relevant. We are a threat. We are being talked about. And we will be back tomorrow for ASU with Dan Crenshaw. We will be back on Sunday at UCLA. We will be back on Tuesday at University of Florida. And we'll be back on Wednesday at North Carolina State University. We're not going away. We're not going to be deplatformed. We're not going to be smeared. We're not going anywhere. So, I mean, they can lie all they want, but, you know, they can't run from their lies forever. They can't run from the truth forever. But that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm tired. I got to eat something. I got to take a nap. I've been streaming at this high level for hours and hours. But thanks for watching. Thanks again for all the lino, or all the lemons. Looks like a lot of lemons being sent up in chat. Thanks for all that. Hey, thanks for watching. I know it's been a late night. We had I think at one point, 15,000 people watching. That's like one of the biggest streams, period, on the internet. So, well, I mean, maybe not like with Ninja, but you know what I'm talking about. Political streams, absolutely. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all the lemons and everything. We'll be back on America First tomorrow. I don't know what time the Dan Crenshaw is. The Dan Crenshaw event is at Phoenix tomorrow. I might cover that on D-Live first, depending on the time, but you can find out updates about this at t.me/NickJFuentes1, my Telegram, or Twitter at NickJFuentes. Follow me there. But like I said, hope you enjoyed the stream. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the lemons. And we'll have to see you tomorrow. It's another night, another salvo in the Groiper War, but we're going to keep going. America First is rising. But take it easy. Have a great rest of your evening.
Americanism, not globalism.
Let's have the conversation. Thanks so much. Happy
Okay, yeah. Let's have the conversation. Why don't you fucking talk to me or debate me then? He does his whole monologue debating straw man versions of my argument, and then says, well, the solution is more dialogue. You just have bad ideas. That's why you ignore and suppress me, right?
Ask a question, please walk around
All right, well, let's see what the questions are.
Stand behind the pink
What a
line
joke.
by the usher and
This is
he'll
turning
grab
out to
you
a much
to
bigger
ask a
deal than I
question.
thought it would be.
Everyone
This
gets
is
a
not
maximum of one
a training ground engagement. He's waging a full counteroffensive against us, which brings us into the game. That's so funny, though.
Hey Ben, thank you for coming here to campus.
Oh boy, here we go.
So I have a question.
This is not a
Many Jews
Groiper.
don't like defining Jews as an ethnicity because it was used as a justification for the Holocaust.
Right.
Do you think it is dangerous to define Jews as an ethnicity?
I don't think that Judaism is an ethnicity in a way that matters to me, meaning that there is such a thing as Jewish ethnicity.
Check,
but
we got
I don't
that.
really care about it. Right? As an Orthodox Jew, I define Judaism.
She's not a
as
Groiper, but that's a
philosophy,
question that's
culture, or
good.
Religion. I don't care if your mom was Jewish.
Was
Right?
she a
Religiously
Groiper?
speaking,
I don't know. I
do
can't
think it's a
tell.
prereq, like you're born into Judaism.
Maybe
you
she
are
was.
Now,
But it doesn't seem like it.
It is incumbent upon you to be a Jew, but you can also convert.
Seems
into
like a
being
plant.
A Jew. I have relatives who have converted into being Jewish. So the part that I care about when it comes to Judaism is not the ethnic part. There are plenty of people who I think are absolutely awful and actually anti-Semitic and are terrible people who are ethnically Jewish. The name Noam Chomsky comes to mind. Right? Like there are plenty of Jews who I just think are ethnic Jews who I think are terrible people.
Oh, ethnic Jews is a
Now,
legitimate term
that
then, huh?
Doesn't mean that, the conflation of the term is odd to me. That's why, I've said before that I think there's such a thing as bad Jews, and people get very mad. Oh, bad Jews. How could you say bad Jews? What I mean by bad Jews is the same thing that a Christian would mean if you said somebody's a bad Christian.
Real intellectual titan,
Meaning
though.
that there's a
I
set
can't
of
get
values
over that.
being Jewish.
The cowardice,
And if you
the
violate those
hypocrisy
values, you could be
of
bad
somebody
at
that gets
being
on the
Jewish.
stage
You
and
could be
says,
bad at being
I'm
Christian.
this free speech
So if you are a
warrior.
Jew,
I'm a warrior in
for
the battle of
example, you believe the
ideas.
state of Israel
I'm
should be
shredding
abolished.
alt-right
You believe
arguments.
that
I'm shredding
Judaism
alt-right
is
Nick Fuentes'
cult.
arguments.
You believe
Meanwhile,
that-
you've used your
that
platform,
Zionism is racism.
which is 100 times
You
bigger
side
than
with
mine,
people
to do nothing but smear
say
me,
all of
try to
these
get
things.
right-wing
I think
watch
you
to
are
get me
being a bad
banned.
Jew, because
You
I
tell
think
your
you are
employees to
fundamentally
block
betraying
me.
the
You've
philosophy
never
and
engaged with
religion
me
that Judaism
substantively.
represents. I don't think
So
you're betraying your
that
ethnicity.
just
I don't care about
blows
your
my
ethnicity.
mind
I
how
think it's
people don't
completely
see
irrelevant.
that.
Hi, Ben.
All right,
My
here we go.
question is about
Groiper check.
assimilation, intermarriage, and the American melting pot. A common critique of immigrants to the U.S. is that they don't want to assimilate, but rather preserve their status as a separate ethnicity, culture, religion, or nationality within the U.S. Some parents may teach their kids to only marry within their identity subgroup. To me, that's not consistent with judging people on the content of their character, which I stipulate is a fundamental American value.
Oh, fuck
I
off.
acknowledge that shared values are
Non-Groiper,
important for a
non-Groiper.
successful
Get him
marriage,
out of here. Take
and
his
people have
coat.
the right to
Take
marry
his
whoever
coat.
they
Get
want.
him out.
Nevertheless, I think teaching
Non-Groiper.
one's children to self-segregate in marriage, there's something un-American about that. What do you think?
So I disagree in the sense
He's
that
a race-mixing
I
shill. He
agree
wants
with
you
the
to
one
marry.
statement you made, which is that shared
I was gonna
values
say
are key
something.
to
He wants
a
you to
solid
marry
marriage, and shared
certain
religious
people.
values are very key to a solid marriage. How are you going to bring up your kids?
What a
Are those
faggot, dude.
Religions conflict, for example.
I think
that the
you have to
question
judge
you're really
people on the
asking is about
content of their
the
character.
Jewish law that suggests that you're not supposed to
Dur,
marry
dur.
anyone.
I
don't
think you
have a
should
problem
judge
with that.
people on the
I don't have a
content of their
problem with that. I
pee-pee
don't have a problem with
poo-poo.
Christians saying they want to marry other Christians, or Muslims
Shut the
saying they want
fuck
to
up,
marry other
bitch.
Muslims. I think that there are certain overarching values in the United States that we all have to believe in, regardless of our religious values. But I think that what you agree on inside a marriage actually has to be broader and deeper than what you have to agree on to remain in the same country. There are a lot of people in this room. We all live in the same country, and I hope that we all believe in the values of the Constitution of the United States. When I married my wife, my first question was not, do you believe in the values of the Constitution of the United States? It was, what are the values that you and I want to raise our children with? What religion do we want to raise our children in? What are the things we want to teach our kids? And there has to be a lot more commonality in the four walls of my home than there do inside the country. Thank God, because I don't want Americans to be a bunch of widgets. I am fine with religious diversity in America so long as we agree on the key principles of the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence.
Gay.
America's a creedal country.
No, it isn't.
That's the good stuff. But I'm not going to mandate that anybody has to marry anybody else in order to demonstrate how broad-minded they are, because even if they disagree on religion, even if they disagree, like, I don't think those are the only values. They are the baseline values for us to share a country. Baseline values to share a country are not the same as baseline values to share a marriage or a bed.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Yeah, okay, whatever, fag. You're not even a groiper.
Hi. So I studied math. I love idealized systems, and so it seems to me like if you could build a nation from scratch, apart from the messiness of the real world, the idea of limited government.
Oh
where
my
everyone
God, who
can
is this
hold
guy with the
themselves up by their
backpack?
own bootstraps is a great system. But given that for the majority of the existence of America, the government has had laws in place that selectively advantage certain parts of society. We don't live in that idealized world. To what extent do you
You're
support
not a
the government
groiper.
using resources to bring up people that have been disadvantaged in society,
Fucking lab
mainly
coat.
the poor, so that we can get to a point where there is some sort of level starting line?
Well, I mean, I think that first of all, you have to distinguish between members of the poor. I mean, treating the poor as like a universal class that doesn't have any sort of income malleability or movement is a category error, meaning that a lot of people who are poor now are not going to be poor in the future. Right, so the fact is that we have a lot of
blah,
inequality in
blah,
our society.
blah,
And
blah,
I remember a time
blah.
when I was earning a fraction of what I make now. Thank God, I'm sure there will be a point in the future when I'm
Boring,
canceled where I'll make a fraction
non-groiper
of what I'm making
question.
now. Right, people move up and down on the income scale, and I think that's fine. If the question is, do I think that the government has a role in bettering the lives of people who have suffered, I think that the government is
We
the
want groiper
organ of
now.
last resort. Meaning that the
What do
government
we
silent
want?
checks
Groiper.
has not
When do we
truly
want it?
done a great
Rape.
job in raising people from poverty. In fact, it has tended to create
That's-
a sort
I'm
of
joking. We
perpetual
don't
poverty
endorse
that
rape.
creates dependence. And creating the proper incentive structure from an economic point of view, where you're giving somebody just enough money that they're still working and they still want to raise themselves up, but not enough money that they're going to stay home, has turned out to be actually a pretty difficult task in practice. The Republicans have tried to do this, I think, in the past by adding work
Everybody's
requirements for
adding me on
welfare,
Twitter
for example.
telling me what's
But
going on.
On a general level, my preferred method is that if you are experiencing financial difficulty, this is why I rely so heavily on social fabric, right? I've talked a lot about family, I've talked a lot about community and religious community. First you go to family, then you go to religious community, or whatever community you're a part of. Then you go to local government, then you go to state government, then you go to the feds, right? Meaning that there should be this sort of movement all the way along the line. I think that unfortunately in the United States we've reversed that, and we've said, okay, the option of first resort is to go to the federal government, and the option of second resort is to go to the state government, and at no point do you look to yourself or to your neighbors. And we've seen payments in cash form or in the form of benefits as entitlements. And I
Benjamin
don't think
Shapiro.
anybody is entitled to
Benjamin
anything.
Shapiro
I don't
picking
think
a
you're
fight
entitled
with
to
the
that stuff simply
big
by virtue
Nick.
of living in America.
Picking a
I
fight
think that you should
with the
feel a
big
feeling of debt
Nick the
for whatever
Knife.
you
Big
happen to
mistake,
receive
Ben.
in the mail
Big
from other
mistake. You
taxpayers
shouldn't have
who are
done
there
that.
Footing the bill for that, or future
That's not a
generations
threat,
as well.
but
So
you're gonna get
the
knifed
government
in the battle
should
of
be minimal
ideas.
limits.
And the
You're right
battle
that
of
there are gonna be
ideas,
certain circumstances
rhetorically,
where the
it's gonna
government
end
does
badly
step
for
in.
you.
I would prefer that it's local government because smaller communities.
You know I keep
have
that
greater interest in the
motherfucking
people who live in
thing
those
on me.
communities. I care a lot more about people who live in my city.
What did you
than I
say
do
about
people who
me?
don't live in my
What
city.
did you
I know
say about the
people who don't live
Holocaust?
People who don't live in my city. You know, so I think that this is particularly true when you're talking about people who suffer, who can't take care of
I
themselves.
guess I'll have to go
Legitimately
back and
can't
watch
take
the
care of
whole
themselves. I'm talking about the
speech
severely
because
mentally
I only
ill.
got like the
Young
last
people who
5
are severely
minutes.
disabled, right? People who are incredibly sick. Right? If you're talking about signing some sort of benefit check to those because everything else has fallen through, without creating an incentive structure such that the community is not incentivized
Yeah, all
to take
right.
care of them.
let's wrap this one up. It's not a
That's something I
groiper,
could get on
Ben.
board
Let's
with
wrap
as a
it
last
up.
resort, but I think the problem is we've
Let's
seen
get
it as
to
a
some
first
groiper
resort.
ones.
And so if now it's a question of direction. Are we moving toward a smaller government or moving toward a bigger government? Is the problem not enough government benefits, or is the problem that government has stepped in and quashed the ability of private people to take
The
care
problem
of
is
each other
that you
in order to make
are a
society
fucking
better, specifically
coward,
for individual
and you are
people, right? If somebody in my
afraid
community is
of
suffering,
Nick
they go to my
Nation.
shul and they
You're
ask
afraid
me
of a
to provide for
groiper.
money, and then we all chip in.
And you should
I mean,
be.
I'm a big believer in charity. I'm a big believer in people helping each other out. I think it's better for them. I think it's better for society than the government sucking enormous quantities of cash out of the system and then injecting it randomly.
I'm a big
as though they're
believer in
putting
Jesus
filler in somebody's
Christ as the
butt.
Son of God. And we know what happened with Barabbas, don't we? All right, Groiper.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I just had a question about a comment you made at the beginning about transitioning from male to female.
Oh, come on, for Christ's sake!
About how important it is to let people believe what
Look
they
at
want
this
to believe,
guy.
and how the government and us have no say telling people what they should think or what they should be able to say. I just wanted to ask, what's the harm, if somebody's going to be a happier person because they say that they're a man or a woman, like what's the harm in just letting them do it?
I'm not in favor of government banning.
What's the
people
harm
who
in
don't-
shut up
Children
and get a haircut?
because now you're talking about somebody who's not capable of consent. Right? All of our laws are based on the ability of people to consent. If you're a child, you can't consent. So I'm very much in favor of banning gender transition for kids. I think that it's frankly evil. I think you're making decisions for children who are not capable of making decisions for themselves that are
I'm not
permanent
happy
and have
about
long-lasting,
this.
significant
Not happy
severe
about this
impact.
Q&A. We haven't got a
As far
single
as
Groiper.
adults,
They
if
all
you're
got
25
removed.
and you want to get a sex change surgery and you feel like it's going to make you feel better, you have the right to do it. You do. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I mean, the research on this stuff tends to be somewhat conflicting, but if it works for you, it works, right? It's a free country. Now, that's really
No,
not the
it's
question
not.
that's being asked in our society today. Because
It's
I don't
not
think
a
there are
free
that many people
country.
who are like, we want to ban gender surgery for a 30-year-old. I'm not seeing the campaign for that. What I am seeing is a campaign on the left that says that my child is going to be removed from my home 10 years from now if I don't agree with the left's view of how I should treat my child's gender confusion at age 4. I see the left suggesting that they want to fine me if I refuse to say that a man is a woman as a general proposition.
This sucks. None of the
If I
questions
say
are
that
even
men and women are
Groipers.
separate, then the left
We're
says
just
this is
watching.
discrimination.
We're just watching
Or the
boring
left is going
Ben.
to suggest that it has no impact on my business if I employ a woman at Hooters and she shows up the next day as a man. Right? Like that does have an impact on my business, right? But the left would suggest, well, you should sort of deal with it. Well, it turns out that gender does mean something, and it does have an actual meaning to people outside of you. I'm not going to go along with the general societal willingness to rewrite basic facets of human nature and human biology, and frankly, mammalian biology, in order to suggest that a delusion is true. Now, if the best thing for the person is for the person they can't change what they're thinking, there's no way for them to get out of it, they want to change their body so that they feel that it is more in line with what they're thinking, more power to them, that's their problem. And as I've said before, by the way, I've said this 1,000 times and everybody on the left automatically ignores it.
I'm sure they were
I've said that
screening the
if I were in a room
questions.
with a transgender person having dinner with that person, I wouldn't go out of my way to call them by their biological sex. Because it's rude, right? I wouldn't do that if I were sitting right across from them. But if you're asking me in a public forum whether a man is a man and a woman is a woman, or asking me to call a man a woman in a public forum, the answer is no.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Great. Golf clap for that retard. Let's get a Groiper. Come on, can we get a Groiper? Plox?
Hi. Good
Okay.
evening, Mr. Shapiro.
A femoid,
Thanks for
yeah.
speaking
Definitely
today.
going to be a Groiper.
I've noticed on the Daily Wire website, there is no readily accessible public editorialized policy. My question is for you is,
I'm gonna
on
slit
what
my throat
basis
right here on
your
the stream.
journalistic ethical standards for your publication.
My question
It's
is,
sort
you're a
of
fucking stupid
it's sort of a
bitch!
vague question. I mean, okay, can you be more specific in what it is you object to about the site so I can offend it? Because
No, I'm just
I mean,
kidding. No,
the
I'm just
general
kidding, though.
proposition is that we are an opinion conservative site. We do our, I believe that like every other news institution, we try
I'm off
to
the
cover
goot,
truth.
man.
We
Where are the
sometimes make mistakes.
Groipers?
If we do make mistakes, we retract it. And what exactly is it that you're asking?
Right. So my question
These are all
is, like, for
plants.
example,
Every
every
one of these
other
has been
mainstream
plants. We get
media
some
news
black
outlet
kid
or
asking about,
ethical standards
what are we
set
even
by, for
talking
example,
about?
the
His
Society of
backpack?
Professional
He asked a question about
Journalists,
backpacks.
News,
Then we get some
Reuters,
boy,
which-
he, she male, horse
which,
guy with
define
the
how
long
you
hair.
should
And
cover
then what is
certain
this? She's talking about
things,
editorial standards.
certain articles
Man,
that I couldn't even find on your website,
shut
like
up.
a specific link to previous,
Let's get a
news
Groiper in
articles
here,
that you had
man.
retracted in the past.
I mean, in terms of what we've like full-on retractions in the past, that'd probably only be a couple of articles that
Man,
have turned out not to be
shit.
true. And so
This
we've
sucks
run
boring. Yeah,
retractions.
tell me about it.
You probably
We
search
missed the best
in
part. We
bar,
missed the whole
honestly,
speech.
I don't know. We've run thousands and thousands.
I hope
of
somebody's,
articles,
like,
hundreds
recording this.
every week. As far as corrections, we issue corrections all the time, just like every other news outlet. I've never felt the need to issue a giant editorial policy. Also, because I don't think journalistic institutions actually keep up with their own journalistic policies half the time. So, but the bottom line
Who
is.
cares, bro? Who
Here's
cares? The
the bottom
culture war. The
Regardless of
culture
policies,
war
the
is
proof is in the pudding. Either
raging.
you like the site or you don't. Either you believe the site or you don't. Either you think we're lying or you don't. I don't think that articulating a policy, a 5-page policy that you're. First of all, I'm glad I'm glad that you're the person who reads the policies. Because really, like, they write these policies and lawyers spend lots of time figuring them out and no one has ever read them. So congratulations to you. You are the person who read the policies and really, like, good for you. But I think that in the end, people believe news outlets based on what they find to be credible and not based on the articulated policy of the news organization. I find the New York Times to be credible sometimes and not credible sometimes, and their editorial policy has nothing to do with it, really. Yeah, it's fine, but one more, yeah.
So do you have any objective ethical standard, or is it purely based off of your subjective reasoning? And
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Well, I think that whenever it comes
Nobody
to interpretation
cares,
of news, there's a
idiots.
certain subjectivity level. I reject
cares
outright
about
the
this?
idea that news outlets are purely objective. I don't think the New York Times is objective. I don't think we're
Snooze,
objective. I don't think
Z's.
CNN is objective. I think that the best way for people to read news is to read
Dumb
our site and then read
fanboy.
Huffington Post, and whatever we have in common is the common basis of fact, and whatever we don't have in common is opinion.
Man.
Hi, Ben. I'm Neil. I study CS at Stanford.
Okay,
I am
come
a
on.
huge fan of yours. I watch YouTube all the time.
Barf.
I do lean left, however, so I disagree with you on some issues.
Wow, what a
First of
real
all,
intellectual.
Okay, can we have a show of hands? People who are liberal to left in the audience, people who disagree with what I say, can you raise your hands, please? Thank you for coming.
Oh, wow. Yeah, amazing. Let's all just jerk each other off. Ow, my hands hurt from jerking everyone
Like,
off
really, it
in
makes
the
the
room.
country better that you come to this, and we should go to your lectures too. It's good. I mean, we
Yeah.
do. They're
Come
called
to
the
my
professor.
lecture, bro. Yo, come to the Groiper lecture, Ben.
So my question is about abortion. That's the issue that I disagree on. You make a very good argument, and I'm going to run with this notion that life starts at conception.
Okay.
In Freakonomics, Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner, they talk about how the people who get abortions are the people who need abortions because they can't afford to raise a child, and children who grow up in households that
There we go.
don't have the resources to raise them disproportionately become violent criminals and end up murdering people. So my question is, why do you prefer the life of
Who
the
even
unborn
is this?
fetus over the lives of
Dude,
existing
seriously?
Okay, so a couple of answers on this. First, I think there are serious challenges to the Levitt thesis that the crime rate, so the basic thesis of Stephen Levitt in Freakonomics is that the crime rate drop is associated with the advent of Roe versus Wade. That Roe versus Wade happened, millions of babies got aborted, and then those babies that were aborted couldn't commit crimes. And
I
so
think
the
there's
crime rate
something
dropped.
to
The problem
that.
is the timeline doesn't actually match up. The crime rates didn't begin to drop until 1994. Roe versus Wade happens in 1973. The vast majority of violent crime, or at least a huge plurality of violent crime, is happening for kids who are actually born, but who are actually between the ages of 15 and like 23. So what you would have expected is that there would have been a massive crime rate drop in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, not a crime rate drop in 1994. The reason you got a crime rate drop in 1994 was additional resources provided by the federal government and the states to policing. So putting aside the statistical argument, now to the moral argument. So the moral argument is that is being made by you, and I don't want to mischaracterize it, is
Yeah,
that the
I don't think any-
probability
they're
that
not
the
gonna get any
possibility that somebody's
Groypers
going to
in
grow up to
here.
be a killer means
Not
that
going to be
they
any
are putting
Groypers. They
some
screened them
quotient
all
of
out or
life
sent them
at
to the
risk.
back of the line.
The
You know what's
problem
going
is
to
that
happen.
you cannot kill somebody based on a probability. You wouldn't do this in any form of life, right? We can't have a Tom Cruise Minority Report approach to children or to criminals in real life, right? There's a big room. I'm sure somebody at this point in this room will commit a crime. That crime may be
Except
serious.
for me.
That doesn't mean that if I just killed everyone in the room, I've now prohibited the crime. Or if I killed the one person in the room who I think is most likely to commit the crime, it's not you, don't worry. That if I killed that one person, that would be okay. Because again, I'm making a forejudgment about behavior that has not yet occurred. So it is true that a lot of people who have abortions are poor. It is true that a lot of people who have abortions may not have great resources to raise the child. The solution to that is not to kill the child in order to prevent possible future crime. The solution is that people should be having babies more responsibly, and that local communities, particularly religious communities, should step in and help out when single moms need help. And by the way, that does happen a lot, right? And that's something that should be happening in increasing numbers. It's also why the government should stop incentivizing single motherhood by cutting checks and playing dad. Yeah.
Hi, Ben. I'd like to ask a question about identity politics.
Sure.
Okay,
So,
Groiper maybe?
To establish credibility, I guess. I'm a little brown, first-generation American, immigrant and LGBT activist.
Oh, great. Yeah, so that's a
also
fucking
conservative.
Groiper. Epic. Oh, come on. Give me a break.
Sorry to the person who gave the shout out before. That there was more to the description. It turns out.
I believe we can be friends with people we disagree with.
Yeah,
But
Ben
as
Shapiro
a result
doesn't
of this
believe
combination of identities, I've been called a bigot, a race traitor, I've been mocked, and all this kind of stuff, which kind of led me to become a closet conservative. So my question to you is, what advice do you have for closet conservatives to survive in a climate or an environment like a college campus like this so that I can get A's in my classes, but also voice my opinion on essays?
Okay, so I have a thriving. So first of all, as you can see from the people in the crowd, thank you for being somebody who doesn't identify by your identity groups, but more identifies by the things that you believe. I think that that's very important. Beyond that, the best way to get by, so I have a thriving debate with my friend Dennis Prager on this. So Dennis, who hasn't been in college in a while, he thinks that you should just say whatever you want. You should say it clearly and publicly in front of professors, and if you get the C, you've stood up for principle. And I think this is silly. So what I have always suggested is that the means must be tailored to meet the ends. In class, you're not there to mouth off. You're there to get the A and move on to whatever grad school you want to go to. Right? I mean, that's what you're there for. And if you're writing in blue books, anonymity provides you with a certain amount of protection. And what that means really is that you can speak out as much as you want in many cases in the class, and then if you write in the blue book, you can write what the teacher wants to hear and get the A. That was my plan at UCLA. So in class, I was Frederick Hayek, I was Milton Friedman, I was Thomas Sowell, and then in my blue books, I was Bernie Sanders. And it worked out great, right? I mean, like, and it's not immoral, because the truth is that the professors are not testing you on your actual thoughts, right? The professors very often are testing you on how well you parrot back to them their thoughts. And so, all right, fine, if that's the game, then I can play the game, but I'm not going to sacrifice my future career and earnings simply to make a point to a professor who is more than happy to lower my grade in order to punish me. So I think a little practicality goes a long way, but you should speak out when you can. The question is, when can you? Thanks.
Okay, Groiper check, come on.
Yo, huge fan. I used to be those guys outside in the signs, and I used to be huddled in my room in Oakland watching you on YouTube. Watching these guys get destroyed.
Yeah, okay, yeah, great job.
So one of my question is, have you been keeping up with what's going on with Roger Stone, and what your thoughts on maybe some of the jurors or the judge that might be going against him?
So, to be honest with you, I haven't followed.
Also, Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh, I'm so black-pilled by this, I can't even begin to tell you. Yeah, it's just a big joke. It's just a big
I'll
joke.
admit, that's never going to stop being funny. But
Yeah, it's so funny that he was friends with the Israelis and was running a pedo
unfortunately, I
ring,
don't have a good
right?
answer on that. I haven't been watching
It's just a
Stone
funny
stuff
and
too
silly
closely
meme.
because, honestly,
Very
my focus has
black-pilling.
been
We're going to need a
on
full-on
impeachment
counter
of
offensive.
29.
We need all hands on deck after
so I've been
tonight.
really watching that pretty closely. I wish I had a better answer on Stone. If you have another
Epstein
question you
didn't
want to ask,
kill
go for it,
himself?
that answer on
See,
Stone's
it's
not.
funny. It's not a totally serious
actually,
thing
there
that
was
he
a guy
ran a
outside
global
who
pedo
was
ring and they
doing
murdered
this
him in
guy
jail
talking about
and he was in bed with the
healthcare.
Israelis.
And he brought up some stuff I never
Isn't that
heard
so
of, like
funny? Isn't that just a hilarious joke? And we're delegitimizing it because Joe Rogan did?
A human right for everyone. And he brought up that, if you had enough money, you could pay.
Look at this guy. Wow, nice Tommy Lahren shirt, you fucking simp.
Ideas that I never heard before, and
America, Tommy Lahren
So
shirt.
there are a couple of
And he
basic
could be a
questions.
Chad Aaron. He
The
looks
framework
like
I
it.
like to use when I'm talking about healthcare and thinking about healthcare is that healthcare, you can have three attributes of healthcare: affordability,
Oh,
quality,
give it a
universality.
rest. Who
It can
cares?
be cheap, it can be good, and it can be for everyone. But you can only have two of those things. You can't have all three. There is no program that is cheap and good and for everyone. It just does not work that way. Right? If it's cheap and it's universal, then you're going to end up with rationing, which is sort of what you have in Canada and the UK. If you have universal and good, it ends up being pretty expensive. And that's kind of what you have in the United States, sort of, because the truth is that there is basically universal health care in the sense that if you go to the hospital, they can't turn you away, but it's very expensive in the United States. Now, it's also on demand. You can get, we are the truth is the world has a two-tier healthcare system. It goes like this. You live in a socialized country, and then if you have money, you come here for your surgeries. Right? But the question is what kind of health system you would like to create. The health system that I would prefer is one that is cheap and good, but not completely universal. And then the gaps are filled by charity hospitals, the gaps are filled by local government. The reason for that is because the vast majority of medical innovation happens in the United States. It's very easy for everybody to live off the legacy of the fact that all of the best drugs are created here, all the best surgeries are invented here, that all of the stuff that the rest of, I mean, it's basically like the American economy, right? The American economy goes south, everybody is toast. Well, if the American medical innovation
Eighth questioner,
system goes south,
Zoomer head
everybody
says,
is toast.
eighth
There are no
questioner,
new
durr,
medicines
look
that
at
are
me,
being
I
invented.
lift,
So
haha.
a free market
Dude, we
system
know you're
incentivizes
doing
the
your giant
creation
arms aren't
of
going to
new,
cover the
better
fact that
surgeries.
you're
It
still gay as
incentivizes
fuck.
more doctors.
Talking like an
More
effeminate
doctor
man,
shortages in a lot of
pathetic.
these places.
Lay biggest man in your
Singapore
office
is-
cubicle,
I mean, we can get into the
LMFAO.
vagaries of all
Half
these
of
systems.
being replaced
They're all
by
very, very
Pajit,
different.
says
But
Zoomer
what I would
head.
suggest
Pretty
is that
funny.
America needs to move in a more free
Pretty
market
funny,
direction
Del.
because more free market means lower prices generally and more innovation. It doesn't achieve universality for people, for example, who have pre-existing conditions on insurance. That's where you need charity to come in, and again, as a last resort, maybe local government.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, I don't think we're getting a Groiper anytime
This will be the
soon.
last question.
Yeah, last question, no Groiper. Remember, no Groiper.
Hi, thank you very much for the talk and for speaking to us today.
Yeah, I'm calling it, it's over, it's over.
Often in your videos and articles, you talk about America being the best country in the world, and I'm wondering whether that contradicts your belief in both economic freedom and the right to life for the unborn, because based on indices I've seen.
Did this
for
guy just come
economic
from
freedom,
class? Look at
for
this
example,
guy. He's got
America
papers
is,
in his hand. What are those papers?
17th on Cato
Everybody here has a
Institute's
fucking
Index of Freedom,
backpack.
12th for Heritage Foundation's Economic Freedom Index.
This
And for
will
right to
not
life
go
for the unborn, it's, I
unanswered.
think, one of only 7 countries that permits third trimester abortion.
Yeah, we're going to have to step
So
it up.
how
We're
would
going to have
you
to go
give,
with
like, a
plan B.
factual,
That's okay. They want to
defense
play
for
rough?
America being
We can
not
play
just one
rough.
of the best, but the best country in the world?
Sure. Okay, so here's how I would put it. The best baseball team in baseball is the Washington Nationals. They won the World Series. Okay, that does not mean that every player on their team is the best at his position. Right? The United States is the best overall. If you could choose anywhere in the world to grow up, to have a chance at success, the United States would be the place. We have the most robust economy. We have freedoms that you don't have in other places in the world: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly. We have constitutional freedoms guaranteed. Right? All of these things are wondrous things that not only are unique, but also undergird the rest of Western civilization.
No
Again, as the
Groipers,
United
not a
States bolsters
single
everybody else.
Groiper tonight.
That does not mean that I think that our generalized abortion policy is the best on earth.
They
nor does it mean I
cleaned
think
them
that our
out. They
generalized tax
exited all the
policy
Groipers
is
from the
best on
event,
earth.
filtered
Now,
them.
it
They
is also
said
true
no,
that
gave them the boot.
Economic Freedom Index, very often, like that particular study, tends
But
to
that's
deal with
okay.
regulatory climate. The United States' regulatory climate, with regard to foreign investment, for example, is weak and needs to be strengthened. That's why we all
Wow,
are looking
look
to
at this.
make it
Guy
better.
Benson,
Right?
David
America can get
French,
better in a
everybody's
variety of
out.
ways.
Everybody's
But
out
what
on
I
the
mean by that
attack.
is America is the least racist country on earth. It is the place with the most opportunity on earth. It has done the most good for the most people in America and around the globe. America is the most rights-based country on earth. It has the best creed that has ever been created by man in the history of man. Seems like a pretty good start. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out.
Great job, little Benji. Just making sure all the puppets, all the marionettes are in place. Yeah, okay, I think we're done with that.